What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, and I hope you all had a beautiful day. Only positive vibes. Only that's the only way I can give it to you. I got a good show tonight. I hope you're ready for it. I have two expert panelists with me tonight, along with my co-host Kevin Branzetti's in the building. Of course, just haven't seen him since the New Year. Happy New Year, Kevin.
Happy New Year, Bill. Happy
How
New
you
Year.
doing?
For those who don't know, happy birthday belated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I mean, everything is
Oh,
good.
okay.
Thank you, ladies. Yeah. I'm Capricorn. Capricorns rock. So I am a Capricorn. This is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. I'm your host, Bill Forster. And we got, of course, our special co-host that's always with us in from time to time. And he put this panel together tonight. So much accolades and appreciation to him. Pastor Kevin Graves, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. God bless.
Good,
Great being
good,
here again.
good. Good. So, everybody, tonight's episode segment, first part is about real talk and domestic violence, and we have two lovely panelists with us tonight, two guests that will give us their professional opinion and expertise on domestic violence. After that, maybe in the second half, Kevin and I will talk about Capitol Hill and uh, this man they call 45 and things of that magnitude and Proud Boys and things of that, because I haven't seen Kevin in a while and I need to talk to him about that and see how he feels about that.
It'll be a short, simple conversation.
Oh, well, that's good. That's all we need. So then maybe that 2 hour window we'd have, we can only do it in an hour and a half. That's a good thing. But that's good. I appreciate that. So without further ado, everybody, we are YouTube Live. We are Facebook Live. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Subscribe to it. Push the like button. If you're on Facebook, share it. Um, Tell a friend. Spread the word. This is what we do. Pastor Graves is going to open us in prayer, and then after that, he's going to introduce our lovely panel tonight. So, Pastor, without further ado, please.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you. Lord, we commit this broadcast into your care, Lord. I thank you for my dear brother, Bill Foster, Kevin Branzetti, Enid Ocasio, Doreen Lesane. Lord, I thank you for what you're doing tonight and for what you're about to do. We ask that, Lord, you would cover our nation with your precious blood, that, Lord, you would breathe life back into this nation which is on life support. And Lord, we ask that, Lord, you would do something miraculous in these next few days. Let your kingdom come. Let your perfect will and peace be done in the United States of America. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. So, everybody, due to COVID, things have gotten, all kind of things has happened. Domestic violence has gone up. Um, Anxiety, all kind of different situations have occurred due to this. I mean, domestic violence didn't just happen due to COVID, but there was a spike from NYPD. And right now, it can happen to anyone, and I don't want anybody to think it can't. So tonight, our panel will elaborate on a lot of things, and I hope you have some questions for them, so please put it in. So with that being said, I will let Pastor Graves, and I thank him for putting this panel together. We'll introduce our panelists, and we'll go from there. So ladies, please, after he introduces you, tell us your expertise in this field and what you do, and then we'll go to the next one. So go ahead, Pastor Graves, take over.
Without further delay, it is a pleasure to welcome domestic violence expert Doreen Lesane to Real Talk Chronicles and the NYPD Community Outreach Coordinator Enid Ocasio. Thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you both.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
So, Ms. Ocasio, please tell us what you do with the NYPD and what's your expertise in this field.
Okay, I am the, as indicated in my title, the community relations specialist. So I deal a lot with the community. I conduct a lot of workshops. I do a lot of facilitating, and any sort of assistance advocacy group. I mean, working with advocacy groups, and I do advocacy myself. So therefore, if somebody comes to me and they're asking me where or who can they call to receive some sort of assistance, whatever that may be, they need counseling, they need money because they have no money, they need food. Um, Maybe they don't know how to file a police report. Where can they go? What can they do? Do they need an order of protection? Whatever it is, depending on their circumstances. And every case is a case by case basis. So basically, I'm sort of like the liaison between the community and NYPD, trying to bridge the gap, but as well as providing services and assistance to those who are in need and who do request it.
Awesome.
Primarily, I do a lot of outreaches as well, because creating the awareness and keeping to our mission with working together, keeping families safe, is priority to me. So therefore, getting out into the community and letting people know that we are here for them. Yes, we're enduring a lot of things. People do not like the police, but we have a lot of sources. We have a lot of assistance that we can render. And so many of times people don't realize that, what we can offer, and how we can offer whatever assistance it is that they may need. So basically, that's in a nutshell as far as community. I mean, Bill and Kevin, you were NYPD, so you know that the hat changes between the day.
Yes. Yes.
So I also deal with the budget, as well as with the auditing, not the auditing, I'm sorry, with the procurement of things. So, and I do a lot of the administrative as well. So, trying to get our officers also adequate training for them to also be apprised of the different ways to be able to approach a circumstance that they may be reporting to. So there's a way. I'm busy. I keep myself busy, and they keep
Understood.
me busy.
Right.
But primarily, yes, it's creating that assistance, that affordability to be able to let people know that we are here, that we are on their side, that we are providing services, and that we're doing as much as is needed for them.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Miss
You're welcome.
Lesane, please tell us
Hi,
your expertise in this. How are you? Happy New Year to you ladies, of
I'm
course.
doing well. Happy New Year's to you and to our audience. It's always an honor to be able to share the information about domestic violence. So what you'll find is that Ms. Ocasio, Enid, and we do a lot of the same work.
Yes.
However, I don't work for an agency. I'm more of an independent contractor. So for the past 10 years, I focus really on educating, training, and advocacy. And so the educating and training part is going into different organizations, whether it's law enforcement, medical, substance abuse, houses of worship. So I go into a lot of different entities and I actually train their people, their personnel, how to recognize and respond to domestic violence. And I've also had the privilege of going into NYPD and training their domestic violence officers as well. My advocacy mostly comes from referrals. Like,
Mhm.
for example, today I was out taking care of some business. I received a phone call from a union member who have an employee who's dealing with domestic violence, but this specific union do not have a domestic violence liaison, right? So someone connected them
Mm.
to me, and I was able to hear what they was telling me about this specific employee, and then guide this person with the resources that she needs based on what her situation is. So my work
Mhm.
primarily is the education piece, but also the advocacy piece. And like Enid, I do a lot of outreach. Unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of the outreach now is done via Zoom,
Mhm.
text, phone calls, emails. However, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to connect people to the resources that they need, regardless of how I have to do it. And for me, even with COVID, there are times that I have to go outside because sometimes you
Mhm.
have to be face to face when you're dealing with a survivor or victim. Sometimes the Zoom, the phone, and the text don't assist It just doesn't work for them. So, for us, and I say us because all of us who's out in the trenches, even with COVID, we still have to get the work done because people's lives depend on this work, and not only their lives, but the lives of their children as well. So for me to be
Absolutely.
here to just give a little bit of information tonight, I'm honored. So thank you for this forum. Thank you for this platform.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, ladies, for coming and taking the time out your busy schedule. I'm glad Kevin is here, of course. And I told Pastor Graves I wanted to do it on Kevin's night because Kevin does a lot of humanitarian work on with himself by himself. I mean, with the group. Kevin, just enlighten the people who don't know exactly what you do now in lieu of things like that. That kind of coincide with what the ladies are going to tell us tonight.
I mean, so in my free time, right, which is kind of a laughable statement, Mike, but in your free time, I worked with a group of people and I co-founded an organization called the National Child Protection Task Force. And what we're doing is helping. Well, thank you. We're helping
no, you deserve that. You definitely
law
deserve
enforcement
that.
across the country. We're providing assistance to law enforcement with missing, exploited, or trafficked kids. Any kind of incident. I mean, we do a little bit more than that, but that's the main topic. So, we're in a nation that has 18,000 police departments that are their own mini little kingdoms. And, the only way you become good at your job is you do a lot of cases. And a lot of departments, it's just not there, the volume. So the first time you have a 14-year-old who disappears in the middle of the night with, a creep she met online, there's a lot of things that are available for us to do. And look, I came from NYPD. I work in another law enforcement agency now. Becoming from the biggest department in the country, it's hard to keep up. It's impossible, actually. So we pool our resources to help these departments and get quick results to bring kids home in the quickest possible fashion before things go worse than they are, kind of thing. That's the short.
Thank you. I appreciate the work that all of you do, all four of you. I don't want to exclude anybody, especially Pastor Graves, Kevin, and Kevin. Kevin and I started our careers together in the 2A, and Doreen, Enid, it's a pleasure to meet you. And so we're going to delve right into it. So my first question is for those out there that may not know what is deemed domestic violence. And I'll let both of you answer that in your own words. I mean, it might be a universal answer, but you may articulate it differently. And Pastor Grace, you and Kevin can always chime in anytime you want to have questions for these ladies. Everybody out there, this is a Real Talk Chronicles. So if you have questions for these ladies, please ask them. And now, and hopefully they, at the end of the show, will ask them to leave some information if they can, where they can be reached or contact, because a lot of times domestic violence is an issue that people don't want to talk about until after it's too late sometimes. And we want to get that out. And, we know domestic violence was the month of October was domestic violence month, but I wasn't able to do a show, and I promised that I would do some show to some people. And Pastor Graves brought it back to me and reminded me of that. So I'm glad that we are doing this show. So Doreen,
Hey, Bill.
maybe yes, go ahead, Pastor Graves.
Yeah, Let's talk about the distinction between abuse and violence, between domestic violence and domestic abuse. I wanted to touch on that.
Okay, go ahead. Any of you ladies want to go first with that one? Yes, go ahead.
I'll go.
Explains it beautifully.
Okay, Doreen, you go first, and then you'll follow. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So because I do a lot of training and I come across so many people who are referred to me with respect to domestic violence, and I found one of the most valuable things you can do is listen to that person, because a lot of times when you listen to them, you'll realize that while domestic violence is part of a whole bigger picture, you'll find a lot of times what a person is describing to you is really domestic abuse. And unfortunately, as you guys know, with law enforcement, the abusive part really don't rise up to being like a criminal offense. So, for example, when you look at domestic abuse, it's something like verbal abuse, right? And so I'm not going to say all of the nasty, derogatory things that a person would say, but it's that verbal abuse, calling somebody out of their name, the emotional abuse, right? And a lot of times I like to say that the verbal abuse and the emotional abuse causes the psychological abuse, right? Because when you systematically take words to harm a person, to demean them, to degrade them, to make them feel less than who they are, it has an emotional, a negative emotional and psychological impact on them. So you have the verbal, the emotional, the psychological, you have the financial abuse. The financial abuse is not just when one person is controlling all of the money. So a lot of people think that's what financial abuse is. Financial abuse can also be like, say, for example, I'm married and I want to go back to school and get a college degree or even my GED, right? And my husband don't want me to go back to school. What he is doing is he's undermining me, because if I go back to get my GED, what that does is that put me in a position to now get a job, right? Getting a job means that I now can become financially independent, and my earning income power will also increase. So that's another one of the tactics that's used. So the abuse a lot of times don't rise to the level of being domestic violence per se, because there's no physical act to it. So when it rises to that physical act, the kicking, the punching, those nature of things, the assaults, the physical assaults upon the person's body, that's what really makes it domestic violence. And the reason why I started training, again, like I said, to distinguish that is because if the person's telling me I'm a domestic violence victim and I sit down to help them, I can't help them if what they're just, well, I can't help them in the way they may want help if what they're describing to me is domestic abuse. I can't really call the cops if he's cursing me out every day, calling me bad names, can I? What type of help can I really get? So I try to help people understand that while you can get help, with therapy and things like that, there's different types of help you can get based on what it looks like, whether it's the actual domestic violence with the physical acts or if it's the abuse part.
Awesome. Thank you. Enid, do you want to piggyback on that?
Right. So whenever I ask what is domestic violence, I always want to always describe what it is not, because there's a perception of who is a victim of domestic violence or what domestic violence really is, right? So I always go through what it is not. It's not gender based, right? It can happen to a woman, it can happen to a man, it can happen to children, it can happen to anyone. It's also not age specific. So while the frame of thinking, it's always that it's the woman in the middle age category who are victims of domestic violence, that's not necessarily the case, right? We have children who are subjected to domestic violence. We have teens. We have elder abuse. We have elders who are subjected to domestic violence. And the other thing that it is not, it's also not financial, right? So therefore, again, what it is not gender, financially, or age based, because it does not discriminate anyone in any category. And I always mention celebrities because people really recognize more with that. We can mention many of celebrities who are victims of domestic violence, right? Like Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, and we can go on with the list and things. But I always describe what it is not. And then to get into what it is, it's a pattern of behavior used to establish and maintain power and control over their intimate partner or family member. So therefore, how does an individual establish and maintain power and control? I'm sorry, I speak a lot with my hands. But
Those your
how
hands.
does an individual?
Do all you want with them. You go ahead.
I'm
You
like,
talk all you want.
it's funny because I'm seeing myself and I'm like, but so how does an individual establish, maintain power and control? It's using those forms of abuse, what we call the forms of abuse, which can be anything from emotional, financial, as Doreen has mentioned. She's mentioned some of them, right? Things that people do not recognize, and I want to focus now on the physical, that they don't realize that is an abuse or that can fit into the category of physical abuse, is spitting. When you're spat at, that's a physical abuse.
Right.
When you are also not medicated properly, we see that a lot with the elder and with the children, because they can't really, they don't really know how to dose themselves. So if you don't provide the medication, or if you under medicate, or if you over medicate, you can cause a physical, you can fall into the category of physical abuse, right? So
Excuse me,
therefore,
no,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
hear.
No, excuse me.
Okay.
I wanted you ladies to, Kevin, you have a question?
Well, I do. I mean, we can go to this, Rod. I'll give you the question. We can hit it now and later. But what can we do? So non-law enforcement, friends and family, and this is personal to me because I'm dealing right now with a family member we're trying to help who's going through domestic abuse. What can we do to help those people?
Yeah, and that's
is
an
out there?
excellent question. That's an excellent question. And after you answer that, ladies, I just want, either one of you or both of you can break down who can be victims. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I know Kevin and I, when we worked at that time when domestic violence really kind of took light and we had to get special codes and things of that magnitude and fill out special paperwork, DIRs and things.
Right.
We, there was a certain, by NYPD standards, certain people fell under that category of who could be a domestic violence person, an individual who. So if you get a chance, can you just elaborate on what categories, like you said, you kind of touched on it on gender specifics and not, but who can be victims to domestic violence? Or you can answer Kevin's question first, or you can answer mine first, whichever one you ladies prefer. Go ahead, and Enid, you go first.
Okay, well, I would say anyone, because as I mentioned, it does not discriminate, right? It could be a child, it could be a teen, it could be a woman, it could be, and it's even within the LGBTQI plus community. So anyone is subjected to be a victim of domestic violence. Now, then we fall into what type of domestic violence is it that the person is enduring? Is it just an abuse? Or is it a physical, right? So that's what Doreen was explaining earlier, as far as if you fall into the abuse and it's that emotional, that psychological, financial can sometimes fit into the category of the criminal aspect of it, especially when it's impersonating, taking out credit cards over things like that. But many of times it's not. It's, as she's indicating, they're preventing the person from getting an education or a certificate so that they can advance themselves and things. So really, the cops are not really called for that, because what are you categorizing it as? There is no category for it, but it's still in the domestic realm. But who is? It's intimate partners or a family member.
Oh, awesome.
That's who would fall.
I'm sorry, Enid.
I'm sorry. That's who would fall in the domestic realm.
All right, Doreen, can you answer Kevin if you want to reiterate your question again to Doreen, and I'll let Doreen pick that question that you just asked.
Sure. To give you a short version, how can we not in the non-law enforcement world help our friends and family who are victims?
The first thing we can do is educate ourselves, right? Because once we educate ourselves and we understand what domestic violence is, and like Enid said, is not. Right? Domestic violence is not just what you hear on the news or you read in the newspaper, right? Domestic violence is so much more than that. So even for us within the professional realm, it's complicated, right? You hear most people saying, oh, my relationship is complicated. Well, domestic violence is complicated, it's convoluted, it's a whole confounded, it's a lot of things. So I say at the very core of what a person can do for a family or loved one or friend who's dealing with it, number one, educate yourself. Right? Find out what resources are available, especially now with COVID-19. You have so many people who are home with their abusers. And, prior to COVID, the abusers probably was in and out the house, right? And now they're just in the house. So what is going on now? Just thinking about it, I'm choked up a little bit because I'm working with a couple of families who are actually like in that situation, and even as a provider, you can feel a little bit helpless, but be compassionate, be empathetic. When the person is speaking to you, don't cut them off. Don't use the phrase, please do not use this phrase. If I were you, this is what I would do. Never use that phrase, because you can never understand what that person is experiencing behind closed doors with that person that is abusing them. And what you would do would be good for you. It would not be good for that person. So what happens when you start using that phrase about what you would do, you're actually going back to what Enid talked about, power and control. You're trying to control that person's situation. And so our job when we're trying to assist someone, even if it's a family member, our job is to empower them. And how do we empower them? First, we listen to them, right? And a lot of times they may say things you don't want to hear. But I tell everybody guaranteed, and I don't say many things are guaranteed. I know taxes and death is guaranteed, but I guarantee if anybody comes to you and disclose to you that they're being abused, it's because within their circle of maybe the 100 or 500 people they know, you're the one person that they trust enough to come to. You're that one person that they figure if I go to this person is not going to look down on me. This person is not going to judge me. This person is not going to ridicule me. So when that person comes to you, the first thing they have already came to you from a place of trust. So they need you to listen to them. They need you to validate what they're feeling. And if a person say to you, I'm afraid of so-and-so, please do not ever tell them, oh, you have nothing to be afraid of. They have everything to be afraid of because they know the person who is abusing them. And this is not just a woman. This is also men. There are men out here who are being abused, and they know that the partner that they're being abused by, they know the level that person can go to, right? So when we start discounting a person's emotions based on their experiences, what we do is that we send them back into that situation. Because one of the tactics that abusers use is that nobody's going to believe you, right? So as soon as you start discounting what they're saying, you don't confirm what that person said to them. And so they're going to go back because they're going to feel they have no one to support them. So it's about being supportive. It's about listening. It's about validating. It's about finding resources, right? And above all, it's about helping them stay safe.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Pastor, I want to ask you a question from a spiritual standpoint. What would you say, or how would you try to help somebody? I mean, it's so many. I think, like Kevin had said earlier, he's going through that right now in the situation, and Doreen, you said that, and I think we've all, some way, somehow, have spoken or know someone who's went through something similar from abuse or violence. With that being said, I think a lot of us don't have the answers to it. Like Barbara Jean said, be mindful of what is being said because victims will shut down. And you're right. A lot of times it's the last thing, and you can come from a protective standpoint to be like, yo, listen, don't talk to my sister like that, or I'll bust your joint or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Which can also incite a situation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, I never forget, I had a friend one time. She was like, oh, he's spazzing out, da 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 da. Now, I'm law enforcement. So I said, next time, call 911, make it happen. They did. They called me like, yo, we have the situation, we're going to put the paperwork. Now it's like, wait a minute. He's a civil servant. I don't want him to lose his job. So I don't want the paperwork to go further than. So I'm like, well, then why would you even ask me to get involved? Like sometimes I feel like the hands were tied before, like I wasn't the protector to come in. I'm not wrestling with your man and fighting with him, and then you're going to stay there, because I've seen that happen too. For whatever reason, that's a whole different cycle. Go ahead, Doreen. I seem like you wanted to say something on that.
Yes, I just want to say that I want to say this to that. So people who are dealing with domestic violence, when they exhibit those, what you call behaviors, that I'm trying to help you, I'm trying to assist you, I'm trying to intervene, and look what you're doing. You're telling me not to put the papers in, and so you'll think that she came in, she did all of that, and then she decided not to do it. And a lot of people don't understand that people who are being abused are in survival mode, right?
Yes.
And being in survival mode, you're frightened to death in 1 minute. So I'm gonna call 911. I'm gonna move forward with it, right? And then you go into survival mode, because this is what happens. Your reality kicks in. Your reality is this: if this, and this happen, this is what he gonna do to me. I can't let that happen. So it's like you walking down the street, minding your business, hot summer day. You see a guy choking a girl out. You intervene, and when you intervene, she go get a bottle and come up at you telling you get off her man. And she's already slapped up, bruised up, right? You're going to try to figure out, yo, I'm just trying to help you. Why are you attacking me? Because in that moment when you intervene, you saved her, right? You spared her from him further choking her out, right? But now on the flip side, she has to stand up for him. Because if she doesn't, the beating will continue. It may not continue in front of you, but when she gets home, she will pay
Now, let me just
for it.
interject. I totally understand.
So I'm not telling you this as an expert. I'm not telling you this as a professional. I'm telling you as someone who has lived it.
I understand. And so let me just say this.
See what I'm saying? I've lived DV. So my mindset when I'm helping people is that, yes, I help them from a place of professionalism, but I also remember where I've been. I remember some of the things I've done. So if outside the world, they don't get it.
So let me interject for a second, Doreen, and I totally appreciate your answer. And Pastor, you can come in and chime in a minute. Sure. And I get everything that you're saying. And I think a lot of times, and Kevin and I have talked about this, and I'm just equating this to NYPD not being trained to handle EDPs, emotionally disturbed people. You know, you're learning on the fly. So I'm saying, you know, as an individual that comes in from a protective standpoint, either I call my sister, my best friend, whomever, whatever, I see, oh my God, a damsel in distress. Yo, what are you doing? Why are you choking her out? Get off her. You know, and then I intervene because I'm like, you don't have to put up with this. You understand? And also, too, seeing it from a personal standpoint, I've seen my father, you know, real transparency. I've seen my father hit my mother. You understand what I'm saying? In the older times, and some other people may have seen that here too that may not divulge that. But I knew I was never going to be that man because that was something that I totally did. And maybe, of course, it psychologically you could say, well, listen, argumentative. I'm not going down that road. I don't do that. I don't play that game. You understand what I'm saying? And I stood up to my father at a time, and standing up to him, my mother was like, "Oh my God, you need to run. He's going to kill us both now." You know what I'm saying? And one day I'll share that story. I don't want to take away from either one of your time, but it became comical in the family. Like after a while, but I say all that to say, like you said, survival mode kicks in, and that's a sad thing because it's survival, but it's not really survival. It's just, regurgitating the cycle, like going right back into what you're used to, and you're conditioned about that. I don't know, Pastor Graves, if you want to chime in on anything like this, or go ahead. I'll give you a chance. Sure.
This question is for either Doreen or Enid. What are some of the reasons why a man or a woman would want to stay in an abusive relationship?
Which one? You go, Enid? You go first.
Oh, either one, Enid or Doreen?
I'll let Doreen start.
We can't hear you, Doreen.
I can't hear you.
Doreen, is she mic'd? No, she's not.
You're not muted, are you? Doreen, remove yourself and then come back in. And Enid, take over that question for her until we get Doreen back. Okay?
Okay.
So Doreen, I'm gonna hold on, Enid. Doreen, I'm gonna remove you and then just come right back in because we're having some technical difficulties. So go ahead, Enid, please.
Okay, so the question again is, Pastor, just repeat the question again.
Absolutely. What are some reasons why a man or woman would remain in an abusive relationship?
Okay, many of reasons. So as we indicated, because it could be financial reasons. It could be for, they've been isolated. They've been asked not to speak to anybody, not to communicate with anyone or whatever. Not only that, but people have distanced themselves from the individual themselves, or the individual has distanced themselves from people to keep them safe. I hear that all the time. Oh no, I don't want to get people involved, so I don't even call anybody. I won't talk to anyone. I won't email. I won't text, or anything of that nature. It could be for religious and cultural beliefs that they will remain within. Primarily, many of times is because that's their norm. It's or they want to rear their children with the opposite partner. Whoever it is. If it's the mother, they want to rear it with their father, and if it's the father, they want to rear the children with the mother. And they're not really realizing that they're damaging the children even more by staying together in such circumstances. And so that could be also reasons as to why individuals. And then there's that fear factor. The fear factor, that if they leave, because many of times when an individual who is a victim is planning on leaving, that's where much more grave circumstances occur, even to
Thank
the
you.
point of death.
No,
So
I just want to
therefore,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. If you got more, go ahead, Enid. I don't want to cut you off.
no, I was just going to finish up with, just that out of fear of either losing their life or the partner themselves, because that threat, when they make that threat, if you walk out that door, I'll kill myself. On a regular person, they're like, oh, okay, you do you, boo, I'm out. But to that individual, remember that love factor is real. They still really love that person. So therefore, they're really thinking, oh, wow, they're going to do away with their life. So they will remain the status quo. The status quo will remain. They will remain in that relationship.
How effective are restraining orders? How effective are restraining orders? If someone wants a restraining order against their husband or wife or intimate partner.
Right. Although I'm in law enforcement, I still have my issues with order protections. I always say, if you can rectify or if you can deal with the circumstances without having to file for an order of protection, is what I will guide and advocate for. And I seek a lot of counsel from Doreen. Yeah. Right. I was going to say, I seek a lot of counsel from Doreen on that matter. So Doreen, the question was in regards to the validity or the value of order of protections, which you and I stand on the same grounds with whether somebody should get it or not. And we more likely than not will oppose, right? We would say, if you can provide services to the individual without them having to file for an order of protection, that's the route that we would take. Because filing for an order of protection will allow the offender, the other party, to gather information from the victim.
Okay,
so that's what we want to avoid.
So when you say gather information as pertaining to what? If they've already
address,
in a relationship,
phone number, location.
Okay, because I mean, Kevin, chime in, Branzetti, chime in with me on this. And Doreen, we're coming to you. From our standpoint, when we were working, fresh out the academy or working or had some tenure on the job, we get a domestic violence call. We go to the job. We fill out a paperwork. Either it's an arrest situation, it's not. But a paperwork, once a domestic violence situation was deemed a domestic violence situation, as per NYPD, we had to do paperwork behind it. I don't know, Kevin, if you want to elaborate on that. I know it's been so many years for both of us to even think about that. But I think, like, domestic violence, Kevin, chime in with me on this. I think under NYPD standards, it was living in common, married, siblings, like family, right?
You're in the ballpark, Bill. But we go back so far when we did the paperwork. It was done on carbon paper.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're right. Yeah.
I want to share this. I remember the inception. I was a PAA in the 124 room at the time.
I remember.
And that was actually 1994.
When domestic incident reports first came out. Yep. Yeah. And we used to make we had that period of time where we had the victim sign it, and then we had to stop doing that because it caused all sorts of other issues. But yeah. And it was our standard to push the person, give them the paperwork and the ability and the phone numbers to get an order of protection, right? That was always the standard. get the person out, make the arrest, give her the knowledge on how to get the order of protection, which
Kevin,
I don't know how effective that was in the end, right? Like,
but, Kevin Branzetti, this is why I was so funny. I was kind of taken back when I heard Enid say this, and she referenced Doreen too, as a point of reference and confirmation, is that they're saying they don't want them to do that now, which is opposite of what we were taught as officers. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I think that's Enid. That's
wait,
only.
Wait, let me clarify. I'm not saying that NYPD.
Hold on. Okay.
But you're saying only the scenario was you described as if we move the victim, right? If the victim has been moved to a new location, I get the no order of protection because yes, that does give that guy or person the background info. If she is staying put in her home, do you lean more towards getting it then? So if she's not being moved and hidden, do you lean more towards getting it if she's staying in her home?
Well, you heard let's hear Doreen.
Yes, Doreen. Oh, we're going to have to get Doreen new internet.
Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Doreen.
Hear you. Oh, that's a shame because she.
Do you have, Doreen, maybe you have other tabs and things open in your computer. You can close out a bunch of other stuff, knock something off the Wi-Fi in your house to open up the bandwidth for you for the video. So, whether it's turning your cell phone off or some other device in the house off, turn the cable off to give you a little more bandwidth. And then you might want to log out, log back in again. Hopefully that.
Yeah. Try that, Doreen, because your information is.
We need you.
We need you. We need your information.
Yes,
so
we
verify that and come back. And we're gonna, as soon as you come back, we're gonna let you rock. So
there was a question thrown in here.
She's
Bill,
muted now.
She's muted now.
Now she's not.
No, she's unmuted now.
Doreen, we still can't hear you. Everybody, this is as we get these technical difficulties. This is the one thing, we're not that rich yet. I haven't made it where I can have my own satellite service. So until then, we have to do what we have to do with everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host.
Write it in the chat. Look, write it in the chat, Doreen.
My co-host Kevin Branzetti and my special guest co-host.
It's not.
She's
hold
back.
on, Doreen. Oh, she's back.
She's back.
Pastor Kevin Graves. We have Doreen and we have Enid in here.
She says she doesn't know what happened to the volume.
Violence. Excuse me?
She said she doesn't know what happened to her volume.
Is she back now?
Oh, I thought I heard her.
Yeah, I did. I heard her for a second. So hold on. Like Kevin was saying, we have some questions. So Enid, you're going to have to hold it down, or the rest of us going to hold it down until we get Doreen back. Doreen, keep trying to give us some volume when you get a chance, but I'm going to have to keep moving with it. Go ahead, Kevin. What was the question?
So Paula put in there, we went in before about, one of the phrases that was not good to say to somebody who's going through this. And another phrase is, does the phrase "you need to get out" fall into that category too, right? We talked before about, if I was you, I would do this.
Yes.
You should just leave.
Right.
Does that is that also a bad phrase? And can you give us some other
that is not recommended
bad phrases that we can avoid saying?
Right. So you need to leave. You need to pack a bag. You need to get out of here. All those things is things that we don't, that we would refrain, or we would ask that you refrain from doing, because again, the threat that they are in is serious. And not only that, 90% of the chance of that person getting severely hurt is in the process of leaving. So that's why we would counsel more into safely planning, but keeping the victim safe while they safely plan to remove themselves from the circumstances. So there are a variety of ways that we will advise, counsel victims on the safety planning, and mainly on the leaving part. They have to, first of all, they have to be ready. So therefore, when we went through the question as to why people stay, many of times is finances. Many of times is, where are they going to go? Who are they going to go to? How are they going to get there? right? If they don't have a vehicle, if they don't have money, if they don't have a shelter, where are they going? Who are they going to? Are they going to put themselves out in the street? Has it happened? Yes. People have become homeless because they've left the circumstance. They've left the situation of DV. But now let's say if that person has children, are they going to become homeless so that then their children become homeless as well? And you're out in the street. So we got to safely plan to remove while keeping the victim safe.
Enid,
And that is on a case by case basis, depending on the severities of the issues, is how we will counsel.
depending on the severity of the case and someone has to leave, for the viewers, are there domestic violence shelters where a family can go temporarily?
Yes, so we would contact
Is there information you can share with the viewers?
Absolutely. There's VIP, there's Mil Mujeres, and I can actually forward all this information to you all, and you can, send it out there. But those are some of the advocacy groups. We have Safe Horizon, we have Sanctuary for Families. We have city agencies such as the Department for the Homeless. They have DV shelters that cater either to families, meaning either way, husband with children or a wife with children, or it could be just a woman's shelter, or it could just be a men's shelter. So depending, again, the circumstances. But there are an array of resources out there that we would reach out to.
I just wanted to say we have a listener right now. We have a person listening, Lotus. Lotus, I appreciate you for being transparent and saying you were a victim of domestic violence. I'm praying that you are not now. She says, "Yeah, I'm a survivor of this." Doreen, do we have you back? We only
I hope so.
Oh, there we
there
go.
you go.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Awesome.
Awesome. So it's
coming
great
in
to
and
have you
out.
back. I don't know if you were able to hear some of the stuff that we were talking. Huh? Can you hear us?
Oh, I think we lost you again.
Doreen, you know what this means, that we're going to have to invite you two ladies back because you're cheating our viewers and listeners of your expertise.
I can.
So that means, there you are.
You guys loud and clear. And to add on to what Enid was saying about the resources,
There's a lag in the volume.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe it's a short from a computer standpoint or something like that. Everybody out there, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forrester, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. We're talking domestic violence with our special co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves, and we have Doreen, and we have Enid in the building with us.
Difficulties.
Yes.
She just wrote in the chat.
Yeah.
So it says that it's working on my end. Yes.
No, it's not. It's not working. Don't believe it.
The internet
it's a
lies.
lie. It's a lie. So Enid, let me ask you, along with Kevin and Pastor Kevin.
I'm sorry, but you had a question from somebody, from a viewer. I don't know if the question was asked.
Kevin, did you ask the question that Paula wrote? I think he asked it. I think you might have answered it. What's up, Roxanne? Okay. How are you? Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Thank you for tuning in. I know this is a very touchy subject. I know right now we probably have a lot of ghost watchers, and I understand why. Because, a lot of people will not divulge that they have been a victim of domestic abuse or domestic violence, and it takes a very brave person to step out of it. I think what we see in the movies might be kind of cliche-ish or cliquish, that and I can say I have been that person too. What, he hits you, I'll be right there. I never forget, I tell a story. My father told me one time, a person that I called, my sister was, he was like, "Yo, what are you mad at? What's going on?" I said, "Oh, so-and-so called me, so-and-so did this or did that." And I was like, "I'm going over there to do work." He was like, "What? You going where?" So I said, yeah. He said, boy, don't go nowhere. I said, what?
Mhm.
He said, let me tell you a story. He said, my sister one time told me about some guy that she was dating, did something to her. So I go over there and I grab money up. As soon as I grab money up, she's like, no, William, no, don't hit him, don't hurt him. He's like,
Mhm.
what? So he said he let him go and he grabbed her up. He's like, yo,
But that's
don't you ever
right.
don't you ever call me over here for this BS anymore. So he was like, yo,
Right.
he said, yo, son, don't get involved in people's nonsense. He said, because you go over there and do something today and you'll see them holding hands tomorrow. So,
Right.
like there's just so many different avenues and adjectives and lanes. So what is the signs in your eye, your professional eye, that a person really wants to go in a domestic
Mhm.
violence situation?
Right. So you gave the perfect example that one day they're fighting, and when I do the facilitating and the workshops, I always use the song. There's a song, "Make Up to Break Up." Have you ever heard? Okay,
Oh yeah,
I'm old school. I'm
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 old
telling
school
my
too.
age
I might
now.
play it. I might play it for you.
I wasn't born yet.
So, and again, now both Bill, Kevin, before 94, any matters of domestic violence was deemed a strictly private matter,
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
therefore, if there was a circumstance where there was a DV issue that was occurring, it was a strictly private matter. You don't get involved. That's there's two phrases that I use as well, right? One is whatever happens behind closed doors, what
Stays behind
stays
closed doors.
behind closed doors, right? You don't tell a teacher, a preacher, a counselor, nobody, because what are they going to do for you anyway? You're only going to go back to your partner and you make that person look like a fool. That's
Yeah.
the concept, right? Then the other is, if you made your bed, what do? You lay in it. It's your choice. It's who you chose. It's what you wanted. There. Now, have it. Now, again, sometimes what we choose doesn't actually appear to be what it was when we first chose it. So therefore, now we're in a circumstance where involved in a circumstance where it's not what it was in the beginning, or that you did see the signs, but you dismissed it because, as I mentioned earlier, that love factor is real.
Yeah.
So therefore, you love that person, you're going to dismiss a lot of the things. So now I don't want to lose my train of thought, but again, why is it that you shouldn't get involved? Well, that's what people think. I always say get involved, but you don't have to physically get involved. Like, you don't have to call the cops. You don't have to fight the next person or whatever. You would have to do, as Doreen was saying, be empathetic, listen to the individual. I also say in my facilitations is many of times, and I'm going to, full disclosure, I'm a survivor myself. Many of times when I told individuals about what I was enduring, I didn't want to hear leave them, get the hell out of there, pack a bag, girl, what are you doing? That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted a vent. Why? Because I can't talk to my partner. That's the one beating me up. That's the one tearing me down.
Enid, stay with me right
So,
there. Enid, stay with me right there. That is so important what you just said, because I'm a person, and excuse me out there, anybody, I don't say this with any malice. I don't say this with any lack of sensitivity, but I'm a person that believes, like, yo, if you want to go, you can go. But like you
mhm,
just said, something that was so important. You said sometimes talking is just what you want to do. You want to vent. So and that goes back to what Kevin said earlier. Like, well, what do we do? Like, how do we help a person? Because I'm not the one that you're going to vent to. Because I'm going to say, what are you going to do after it? I'm a conflict
mhm,
resolution type of person. So please
right.
school me or school our listening audience. And I see you, Susan. Susan said, yes, Bill, sword and shield. Orders of protection designed to shield by many times sword. Exactly. You're right. Shout out to Susan in the building. So please enlighten me, because I mean my life has changed drastically. Like right now, you can't just call me, because the world is different, people are different, and right now,
Mhm,
God forbid if I had to get involved with somebody that I loved, and I, as a sister or a cousin or thing like that, I probably feel like I have to kill that person, because I'm not, the world is different. I'm not having nobody come
right.
behind me. I have a family.
feel
You understand what I'm saying?
right.
So
You
just
go into
enlighten us.
protective mode, right?
Yes.
You go into protective mode, and that's totally understandable. But for that person right there and then, that protective mode, it's not the time.
Right.
They're not ready, right? They're not ready. So that's why it's very important to, like what Doreen was saying. And I counsel, I seek her counsel a lot. She'll refer back to me. We piggyback out of each other a lot. So therefore, being compassionate, showing empathy, listening to them, most importantly, encouraging them. Keep encouraging them. You are, just and many of times it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But by you encouraging them, remember, at home, they're getting torn down. You have to build back up.
So let
They
me
go
ask you a
back home,
question.
they tear
Hold on for a
down, you
second.
build back up.
Hold on, Enid. I want you and Pastor Graves to have this dialogue right now. So, Pastor Graves, from a spiritual standpoint, as a
Yes, sir.
man of the cloth, how do you, if somebody comes to you and they're experiencing this, how do you handle this? How do you posture yourself during this conversation?
Most likely, I'm going to be doing more listening than talking.
Yes.
I think that's very important. I don't have all the answers. So therefore, I will be in gather information mode, try to gather as much information and speak life into the person, try to encourage them. As we talked about earlier, not saying the wrong things, as Kevin was talking about. Oh, well, girl, brother, you need to get out of that relationship because if it was me, I don't know what I would do. I would leave. No, those are all the wrong things that unfortunately, many of us who mean well don't know that these are some of the questions or some of the statements that we should not be making. So for me, it's doing more listening than talking, gathering information, and using my resources, using Enid, using Doreen, using Safe Horizon, using the resources that God blessed me with to hopefully direct people.
Well,
I yield
thank
my
you.
time.
Kev, you want to chime in?
If I said no, would that be wrong? No, I'm enjoying listening, right? Like I said, I'm going through this with a family member, and it is about listening, and that's the approach we've been taking, and letting her know, her feelings are real, and they're not rare. Like, she's not the only person who's ever gone through it. There is and can be light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to figure out together how we work and bring you there. And it's not going to be a quick journey. It's not a perfect journey, but it's a journey that, I'm willing to spend the time, effort, and money to, work with and get you there. And I think that's more of what we need to do is offer that support.
Can I share a safety planning measure that we used with one of our officers in Brooklyn North?
Please do.
We partnered up. We spoke. They had me come in. They had me speak to the victim. The victim was very afraid, did not want to leave the home. She had a timing. She was being timed how long she could stay out. So she was like, really, like, you guys have to make this quick because I got to get back. And okay, so we took our time in the sense that whatever it is that she needed, that's what we did. If she could only give us 15 minutes, that's what we utilized, the 15 minutes. And we met various of times. It took us like 6 months. It took us like 6 months to convince her to pack a bag somewhere, not keep it in the home. Why? Because the offender is constantly looking for things that are out of order. And then if something's out of order, you're trying to leave? What do you mean? And that's where the more of aggression is going to begin. So we partnered up with a Planet Fitness. We spoke to the manager. We asked if we can utilize a locker. We indicated that we didn't have any money for the membership. Like we couldn't provide any membership money for that or whatever. We just needed the locker so that we can be able to provide it for the individual. And we just asked, put in clothing. She was like, I can't. He knows how much clothing we have. Fine. This is what we did. We got the sizes of her children and herself. We bought her clothes. We bought a bag. We put it in there. We asked her if she can get the documents that were most important to her. What's most important to you? Birth certificate, social security, kids' immunizations, your health cards, if you have a marriage license, whatever it is, give it to us. We scanned it. We put it on a thumb drive, put it back, make it seem like you never even touched it. There was a scanned, all that information was in there. We kept speaking with her, just counseling. And again, it was more of encouraging her, giving her the strength, the ability, the empowering, so that when and we made it very clear, whenever you are ready, that bag is there. You can go in. Nobody's going to ask you any questions. Because again, we already had that conversation with the gym manager. Nobody's going to ask you any questions. They provided us the key to it. Actually, we bought a lock and she had the key, whatever the case is. The key was hidden somewhere else as well. We don't know where she hid it. She didn't tell us. We didn't ask. But it took another 6 months. And we would periodically go to the gym. We would open the locker. Bag is still there. She's still home. Okay. If any calls came in, we were monitoring that as well. It took another 6 months after that. We went to the locker. It wasn't there. Our DV officers made a home visit. She wasn't there. The offender was there. She wasn't there. She left. I don't know where she went. We were like, oh, wow. So, we got to act concerned for the matter. But I think it was like three weeks later, I think it was, the DV officer called me and said she called. She's in a safe place. She's in another state, which we didn't ask where. She built up the courage to actually leave. So many of times it's going to take the time. It's going to take more than a day, than a week, than a month. It could even take up to years. But what we want to assure the individual is that we are there for them, and we got to empower them. We got to listen to them and provide as much information that we can to build them up and encourage them, to the point where they will make the decision that is rightfully for them.
Enid, I have a question. Let's say someone has to leave immediately, like yesterday. They have to leave. If the domestic violence shelter is closed, where can they go?
It depends. I mean, where can they can go to any of the places that we call if they provide us. There are a lot of underground places that the actual advocates may know of, and they would make their phone calls to those underground places. If they have the availability, they would then encourage the individuals to go to those places. I don't have the information to them because that's why they're underground. But
how safe is a
like
firehouse?
Safe Horizon, Sanctuary for Families, VIP, Mil Mujeres, all these other places, they may know of underground places that they would make the suggestions. So they're making out the call. I didn't hear.
How safe is a firehouse?
Firehouse is safe. A firehouse is safe. The only thing is, how comfortable is the victim? If the victim is a woman, how comfortable is she going to feel in there with a whole bunch of men?
True. Just temporarily, because she has to leave the house because it's a dangerous situation. So she grabs the kids and gets out of the house, and she just needs somewhere safe away from her abuser.
We're always guided by the victim. We're always guided by the victim, because who better to tell us what the circumstances may be than the victim themselves?
Amen.
Right? The victim will know what's going to harm them more than what not. They know that if they, like with this particular girl, she knew that if she wasn't back within that 15 minutes, she was going to be in for it. So when we worked with her, we had to do the 10 minutes because we had to leave her. And I'm just using these numbers hypothetically, but I'm just saying, like, we knew that we had to use the 10 minutes because she needed 5 minutes to get back. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be guided by the victim because they know their jeopardy more so than what we were.
Enid, excuse me for a second. How long? It's an hour now. How long more can we have you, or when do you have to go?
I'm with you. I can do another 20 minutes if you would like.
Okay, excellent, good. So we'll
Only
stay on
because
that.
I've been here since very early.
No. I just wanted
You
to.
know
I didn't.
our hours.
No. I just wanted to respect your time, and I appreciate you because definitely we're going to have you and Doreen back. But I just wanted, right now because of Doreen with her difficulties, it's all about you, and we're just piggybacking. We're following you. I just want to read some comments real quick. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti and my co-host Pastor Kevin Graves in the building, and we have Enid Ocasio. Did I pronounce it right? I just want to make sure
Yes,
I got
you
it
did.
right. And she is just giving us some insight, and it's good information. I think it's also therapeutic, if I may say that word, because I think growing up the way, and I'm dating my age, that age group. I think you said it earlier, Enid, like what happens in the house stays in the house. You don't talk about what's in the house. Middle
Mm-hmm.
class, lower class, poor class, rich. It doesn't make a
Mm-hmm.
difference when you see something. And to know domestic violence or domestic abuse, I don't think there's anybody out here who's not experienced it one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here has been called out their name,
Mm-hmm.
or certain things has been, come on, are you going to do that really? Or
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, you're threatening to call the police on me? Or wait a minute, he did this to me. And I always equated to one of my favorite movies, The Godfather. And I always said I had the temperament of Sonny, but the cunningness of Michael, because
Mm-hmm.
there was a part of me that would have did a Sonny. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
that led to his demise. If we all remember the movie The Godfather, but the
Mm-hmm.
cunningness of Michael would always be like, wait a minute, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
before I'm gonna read a couple of comments, but I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna put it out there to you. So when do us, Pastor Graves, Kevin, myself, intervene, because before it becomes too late, if there's ever a point? So, I mean, marinate on that. I just want to read a couple of questions. Kevin, we got one for Barbara. She said, Pastor Kevin, if couples of your congregation were involved in domestic violence, would you counsel them first as well as pray for them? Call it a counselor or encourage them to separate from, I'm sorry, I just got it's more added. So excuse me. Oh, fingers are getting fat. So hold on. Um, to call in a counselor or encourage them to separate for a while. So, Pastor Graves, I'm going to let you answer that. I'm going to read it again now because I got it all in its
Okay.
entirety. This is from Barbara Jean. She said, Pastor Kevin, if couples of your congregation were involved in domestic violence, would you counsel them first, as well as pray for them? Call in a counselor or encourage them to separate for a while?
I would ask, number one, I would have to bring in someone like an Enid or Doreen to teach me on how to counsel, because there's information that I'm not privy to. So, number one, I would get the necessary education for myself and my congregation. So this way, when we or congregation members or leaders within, let's say, my particular house of worship, or in my case with Christ Community Church, I would reach out to my senior pastor, Bridget Taylor, and her husband, and gather information through Enid, through Doreen. We would sit down, okay, and talk about if someone should come in and say, look, I'm going through a difficult time. I'm dealing with my husband. I'm dealing with my wife. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? I would need training. We would need training so that we can effectively execute whatever information that we need to share. Of course, yes, prayer is absolutely. That goes
So,
without saying. We would
Pastor,
definitely
let me
intercede
ask
on
you a
their behalf.
question. Let me
Yes, sir.
interject for a second, and piggybacking off what Barbara Jean said. Now, I'm gonna be a little facetious with this, but with all in sincerity, I'm being factual. When somebody's going through some domestic violence and they come to you, we always hear about the pray. The last thing somebody who's getting their derriere beat is talking about, I want to hear somebody praying. And I'm sitting next to the dude
Right.
that's beating my ass, and you talk about,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Father, Son. Like, yo, dude ain't.
Right.
Yo, I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
after he said his prayer, I'm still going home getting smacked in the head. Like,
Right.
when does a pastor or maybe you, and you know, I threw it out and said a pastoral way, but maybe when does a person that says, wait a minute, this ain't so much about saying prayer, this is about extract and protect.
Survival, right.
Yes.
The reason I answered it that way is because my question that I have for Enid is, what can the clergy do in order to counsel someone? So that's the reason. Now, being that I have Safe Horizon, I have Enid, and I have Doreen, I would talk to them, give them their contact information, and they would be able to assist in that regard.
So there might be a point where you're still gonna put a prayer in there. I'm going to give them put a prayer in there and be like, yo, Enid, 911, get over here because this is real.
No, what
well,
we
Bill,
call
Bill, let me say, I'll throw in a prayer in there as well.
Yes.
Okay,
so
only because we got to go in with the shield.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw in a prayer there as well. And let me just, Pastor Grave, I'm sorry, but let me just add this. We have support group meetings that also are Christian based. I want to say Christian based because we're all Christians, right? So therefore, whatever faith you may be, because while Pastor Grave may not have that, you know, while they may not provide those services, there are other clergy that are providing those services. So that is another avenue that I can recommend the individual to attain, because many of times when that individual hears that, oh, wait, I'm not the only one going through this. There's somebody else who's enduring this, and they want to hear, okay, so how are they dealing with it? So again, that's why that empathetic, you know, that empathy, that listening, that encouraging, that all falls into play to help the individual understand that there is help, you're not alone, and as long as it takes for you to take an action for your safety, and if you have children, for your children's safety, that's as long as we're going to be with you.
Awesome. Hold on for a second. I have. Oh, go ahead, Kev. You have something?
Pastor. I think the way the question reads though is if the couple came to you. So it's the man and the woman came to you and were involved in domestic violence. How would you work with them, treat them, deal with them?
I think that would have to be done on a one-on. I wouldn't do it together. I would maybe address one at a time. But nevertheless, or if they come in together, again, as I said earlier, doing more listening than talking, and knowing what shortcomings that I may have, and also at the same time knowing that I do have resources to help you. I have this person who you can call. I have this particular group, this person who you can call. So I can give you the information. I can give you the names and telephone numbers, and also be that listening ear and support system that way. So I want to work within the resources that I have at my disposal, and also understanding my limitations and staying in my lane, and just working on that level.
Can I chime in on that as well?
Yeah,
Kevin?
And then with that, how often have you ever seen an abuser come forward asking for help?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I have. And I want to chime in on that. Yeah, I have, and I want to comment on that as well. I want to be able. I was actually facilitating a workshop at a church, and it was the offender who came to me, and it was during sort of like an asking for forgiveness type of moment within their session, that he came to me and disclosed that, you know, he was repenting because of what he was doing to his wife, to his children, this, that, and the other, here and there. I, in turn, I listened to him, I encouraged him, I counseled him, and I thanked him for recognizing that he was an offender. And I thanked him for also coming forth and disclosing, because how many do that? Not many. So you have to praise them because they did come up. He did come up. He said, I'm causing destruction in my home because of how I'm treating my wife and my kids, and I want to change. So of course, I went into, how do you think you're going to change this? That we had a one-on-one conversation. I asked him, do you want for me to advise your pastor so that you can both seek counsel from your pastor? His response, which was lovely, he said, let me call my wife and let's see if she would want to. Which I was like, oh, it's going to get real now, right?
Well, let me interject for a second, and of course I'm gonna throw some humor in this. I mean, how do you how do you thank somebody for telling you that he's been like he sits there and he's the boss, like, yeah, I've been beating her ass, and you're like, oh well, thank you for telling me that. Like you recognize that you're a abuser. You know what I'm saying? Like, where does Enid ever, the female, the emotional woman, anybody, how do you separate her from, like, I want to get Medea on you and cook some hot grits and throw in your face? You know what I'm saying?
Make some grits.
Yeah. When like, I mean, because let me tell you something. I can tell you some stories that I've worked. I mean, it's the time has elapsed where there's no statutes of limitation, but I got caught into that situation working one time when an officer got caught up emotionally on a similar situation, and then she escalated the situation where she was like, "Well, yeah, I got hit when I was dating somebody, and I want him arrested now." And I was like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Yo, now you want to take this?" I got some people that want to respond, ask you a question, and I just want to get their answers because I
actually want
don't
to share this as well.
I just want to finish with Bill.
Okay.
It takes the listening. We really need to listen. I didn't respond very quick to him. I listened to him. So as pastor, and I know that whenever we speak to Doreen again, that's one of the most important tools to use is our listening. Don't speak. Just listen. Let them speak. Let them get it out. Let them vent. Let them say whatever it is that they want to say. Let them get their heart out and not say a thing. And something that I had to learn, and it took years for me to learn, is not speak with your facial expressions either.
Yeah.
Because you know how we can go, as people are speaking to us. So it takes, I mean, again, I've been doing this for quite a while, so I've learned a whole lot along the way. But a lot of listening is key. Showing empathy is key. Encouraging is key.
And it's so funny what you said, Pastor. I'm gonna let you come in, and then I want to read some comments because I know we only got it for 13 minutes. But you know what's so funny? People is I'm watching for you. I told you I watched for you. But as people, it's very hard to not have facial expression. Somebody say something, you'd be like, "Come on," like you'd be like, during that conversation, Kevin, back in the old days, we would tell money, you'd be like, "Yo, if that was my sister, what would happen, right?" But let me, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Hold on, I just want to read some comments and questions, and I'm sure who they're directed. And Pastor, you can definitely chime in after this. Marquetta said it absolutely takes planning when you are leaving a domestic violence relationship, and people really don't understand that when they telling you to just pack and leave. Yeah, that's the situation. Sylvia, I think, was referring to the comment Enid had. A shout out to my old neighbor. She said, "How do you help that guy?" Talking about in regards to the person that you were talking about. Maybe you kind of answered that question. I implore you to come back. If you're on social media, please send me a friend request so you can come back and comment to these people. Lois said to bring out the good from the evil. Lois, that's a hard task to bring out the good out the evil. Barbara Jean says, you will not find a lot of victims or abusers come forward if they are members of a church, because unfortunately, most members want the church to believe that their life is perfect, and it is not talked about in the church. Absolutely. Pastor, I'll let you comment on that. Marquetta said, a lot of time the abuser has major underlying issues within themselves and that need to be helped before they can stop being an abuser to help the spouse. Exactly. Sylvia said, how many have you actually saved? Well, so what's so funny? I'm going to let you, Pastor, I'm going to let you chime in, unless, Kevin, you have something to say. Pastor, I know you wanted to say something, so please say that. And then let's try to address these little comments and questions before they go before Enid leaves. So go ahead, Pastor. I'll let you comment on something.
Absolutely. Number one, I just want to say thank you to Kevin, you, Bill, Enid, Doreen, if you're listening. This has been great. I just wanted to share this. As far as the clergy goes, we don't know everything. Many of us were very spiritual, in some cases overly spiritual, that we are of no earthly good in some cases. And this is real. There's a reason why I wanted to bring on Enid and Doreen, because this is a real issue. And not many of us, I'm talking about us, I'm referring to those clergy, pastors, church leaders. Many of us don't know what to do if we're confronted with someone who is a victim of domestic violence or domestic abuse. We wouldn't know what to say. So therefore, Enid, you illustrated it perfectly. You mentioned it. You said listening, empathy, encouragement. Listening, empathy, encouragement. You don't have to have a license for that. Right. But this is something that I would encourage myself. And I thank God for the teaching and the instruction that I received from Enid and Doreen and others in this particular area. So I'm very grateful. And I have resources that I can share with people. And thank God for, again, the prayers. And like you said, Bill, earlier, some people said, look, man, I got a knot on my head. What is your prayer going to do for that knot on my head? So, and that's just keeping it real. That's just being real. Say, look, I appreciate your prayers. I'm not saying don't pray for me, but how can you help me right now? Okay. Right. I don't have a place to live. I'm living in fear. Where can I go, man of God, woman of God? And this is where we have to have answers. I'm not saying, and know what to say to people. And it's very, very important. We can, in our well-intentioned, we can end up doing more harm than good. So that is my concern as well. So again, listening, empathy, encouragement, and Enid, in closing, is there a teaching for clergy? Is there some sort of a tutorial that clergy leaders can look into for help in this area?
Aside from me coming in and speaking to you all,
okay, there we
I
go.
don't know anything from the outside, right? I don't know anything from the outside. I know I've come in to speak to many of the clergy, because let me just mention this, and this is for the people that are watching as well. One of the things that we strongly encourage clergy not to do is to make it a preaching at the pulpit. Because again,
say that again.
That just destroyed the individual, because now they know you're speaking about them. Even if you're not speaking about them, you know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that we don't encourage, that we will totally just really try to keep people from doing.
Hey, Enid, I know they be at the pulpit, they be like saying in the pew, they be talking about, I told you he was going to tell my story. I know I don't like him. I think he can't preach. You know,
I have seen many individuals leave the church and have no faith in clergy, no pastor, no priest, no nun, nobody, because they outed their circumstances. So that's one of the
give me my Bible. I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying.
Enid, one last thing.
It's a confidential matter. It's confidential.
Right.
And you need to stick to that confidentiality with your individual, with your congregant, and you need to reassure them that you're there to aid, assist, help, listen, encourage, and show empathy. I can't say those words enough.
One last thing I wanted to share with you. Where can the abusers go to get help? We're talking about the abused, but where can abusers, if there are any abusers who are listening in, where can they go? I'm hoping they're at wit's end. Where can they go? Say, look, I'm tired of beating my wife or my husband. Where can I go to get help?
Well, they're not going to say like that.
Okay.
But they are going to say that they recognize that they have an issue, because, as mentioned, there is an underlying issue. They may have dealt with abuse themselves, so that's what they know. They may have a substance abuse. They may have an alcoholic abuse.
Right.
And so therefore they may then end up recognizing, or it could be a court ordered thing, that the court has ordered them now to get some counseling. to seek some advocacy, to seek any assistance to what it is that the matter that they're enduring. So I've used Connect for men, especially men abusers, for their, men who are abused. Because remember, anyone can be subject to abuse, men as well. So for assistance in, for men, we will recommend Connect. The city also has other services that they provide for victims of domestic violence as well as for offenders. There's a lot of, and anger management that may not always just be the solution. The individual may need therapy medically as well as psychologically, and they may need a psychologist as well to be able to deal with their underlying circumstance. So once again, there's an array of advocacy groups, non-for-profit. There's other outside city agencies that can help as well. I know the mayor's office does have anger management and counseling for, and they also collaborate with the Department of Probation and Parole, because many of times individuals are within that category that then they're able to be sent to as part of their remedy, to get lighter sentence or whatever the case may be. But there are other advocacy groups that also deal with advocating, providing assistance for individuals who are the offenders.
Excuse me for one. Let me
Because
interject.
again, it's the underlining.
Let me interject for a minute. Enid, let me tell you something. Are you on social media? Because if you are, please send me a friend request, because you have a plethora of questions in here. And Doreen, if you're listening, we're going to take a go for me page, and we're going to help you with your Wi-Fi, because we need you to come back. you're the character, so we're going to help you, because we need.
This is where I'll say the devil is a liar, right, Pastor? They're trying not to get her come out here and give information, but the devil is a liar.
No, and you're right about that, because there's somebody that did the whammy jammy that stopped it.
Right.
So we're gonna step. I don't know who's a carrier for Spectrum, Infinity, or whoever, Comcast. We're gonna get to the bottom of if it files. We're gonna Kevin Branzetti and I. We're gonna get on our case. We're gonna do what we do. We're gonna figure it out.
So Bill, let me ask: is this? You said this was on YouTube and which other realm?
And Facebook Live. So the reason why I said YouTube, you're not going to see these questions unless they ask them via YouTube, and which those are more they're smaller in contrast than it is to Facebook Live. That is. So that's why I was saying, if you're Facebook Live,
on Facebook is going to be Real Talk Chronicles.
Yeah, no, Real Talk Chronicles or Bill Foster. So Kevin Pastor Graves will send you to make the connections, and please send me a friend request, because I've been deleting people left and right for the new year. I done got my number down to like 4,990. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm working. So I have one question before you go, because it's 1:28 on with you, an hour and 28 minutes. And like I said, these questions only you can answer. Pastor and Kevin, and Branzetti and myself, we're just we're blowing smoke. We could just give the best we can from our perspective. But Sylvia, she asked a question, and I'm only going to ask this question because I think this is real. This is the realest question that can be given, and you can answer it the best way you can. She said, "How many people have you really saved? And if there's a percentile with this?"
Wow, I haven't really taken the account. I've been doing this since 2014.
I mean, I know there's not a percentage.
Really saved. Okay, really saved that I've really helped, and they actually sought the help and gotten. I would say an approximate 20 to 25 people.
Okay.
Now, I've spoken to thousands.
Thank God.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I've spoken to thousands, but I can say around about 20 to 25 people that actually. And I gotta say, the one that I really take pride in is the one that I shared with you all, where we actually partnered with the Planet Fitness our DVPOs, our DV sergeants, our CVAP, which are part of Safe Horizon. It was a collaborative work. And like I said, it took almost a year and a half, but when she made that contact to say that when she got her bag, she's got her children, she moved out of state, and she is safe, we could not stop high-fiving ourselves, because that was, I even get the chills just talking about it. That was my most memorable, and that was the most achievable, that we felt like, wow, we cannot stop doing this. We need to continue.
You know, before you go, because it is that time, I'm just going to read some of the questions that the reason why I'm asking you to come back. And I just want to say, Barbara Jean said, okay, abusers come forward. Okay, she said, I think we read that. Let me see. You will not have find a lot of this. Yes. Marquetta said, a lot of times the abuser has major underlying issues within themselves. They need to be helped before they can stop being an abuser to their spouse. Sylvia asked a question that was the most important question that I wanted to ask. How many have you actually saved? Sylvia said, can you put them on blast? Oh, that might be another question. Like I said, that's why you got to send me a friend request so you can reply to these people. She said, okay. Enid, Roxanne Davis said, Enid, have you ever heard of SAVI program at Mount Sinai Hospital? I don't want you to answer that right now. I don't know. Hey, Roxanne, can you just tell us before she gets off what does the acronym mean? Marquetta said, also, a person dealing with DV has to be very careful who they talk to. So some people will get their person hurt by running their mouth. Okay, Sylvia said, what about a person with mental illness, even though to me, DV is a mental disorder? That's a good question. Roxanne said, they provide training and workshops during domestic violence. If you save one, that's a lot, Sylvia said. So you see, Enid, that's why you have to come back. Like I said, I'm going to let you and Pastor Grace set up Doreen's Go For Me Fund so we can get her some Wi-Fi because we want you back. Maybe Kevin and I, maybe we can have them back maybe in February if that's fine, or March, or whatever works for you ladies. Pastor Grace, of course, you know, he's part of the Real Talk family. We want to work that, you know, I don't want to keep you no longer than you want to be here. And I want you to come back willingly, not twisted.
Oh no, absolutely. Actually, I'll stay as long. I just know that my boss is going to question why was I here so late.
No,
but let me just mention. I want to mention this. Yes, October is DV Awareness Month, but it's not the only month that we are providing training.
Okay, good.
January is Stalking Awareness Month and human trafficking. We're talking about that. You know, we're going out and we're speaking and we're teaching on that. February is teen dating violence. We speak to teenagers on how to stay healthy, what a healthy relationship looks like, and things of that nature. March is Women's
I'm going to say it right now. We're going to set up, Kevin Branzetti, we're going to set up one of those days in February. Pastor Graves and Kevin and I, we're going to come up with a date. And, you know, we're going to do the next thing, and we're going to get Doreen back with that. And Enid, that'll be your date. I mean, if you want to, we can put the date on the map right now. I have no problems. Branzetti, you good with that?
That because my calendar is already filling up.
All right, well, so let's go into that right now. I'm going, Pastor Graves, of course.
Yes, sir.
We need you here for that. So we're looking at February. We're looking at the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. What days work for you guys? What days work for you, Enid? Well, Enid is the
You said the 3rd?
The 10th.
Give me those dates again. I'm sorry.
The 3rd.
So Wednesdays. Wednesdays?
Yes.
Wednesday, so far I have the 10th, 17th, and the 24th available.
So the 10th. Kevin Branzetti, is that good for you, the 10th? Pastor Graves, is the 10th good for you?
That works for me.
All right, so everybody
same time?
Now. Same time.
Same time?
Yes, same time, 7 o'clock.
Yes.
So, and we're gonna see if we can get internet Doreen back on the set. We're gonna get it. So Pastor Greg, I'm a teaser. You know I gotta bust a chops. Real talk. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
Doreen, I know you're listening. I know you're listening to with your 2G.
She gonna get you. She coming for you.
She can't give me too much because she'll come in broken up. She'll be like, you know what, Bill?
This is too
You know,
much.
it's so
You are
funny.
too much.
Listen, in a world with so much controversy going on, we got to bring some light to it, and
I
maybe
agree.
that's my job to add a little humor to this. Enid, please, before you go, give us some words of encouragement. Give us some words of advice. Pastor Graves, you can take us out on a prayer. Kevin and I are going to just hang out for a little bit longer, just to have a little bit just conversation.
Yeah, because
We're not
Kevin,
going
he
to
wants to read you. Words of encouragement. Stay focused. Listen, I can't reiterate it. I'm going to say this again. I cannot say this like in terms, I will strongly encourage that you stay focused, listen, show empathy, encourage. Many of times when individuals are disclosing, and again, as someone indicated, not many people will come forth and let know that they are enduring circumstances of domestic violence. So therefore, if you are the one that they're disclosing that to, again, feel privileged. Do keep the confidentiality. By all means, I can be reached. Shall I give my contact information now, or?
It's up to you. Yeah, it's your show, girl. Go ahead, girl. Go on, girl.
So I can be reached at 917-209-3533. My email is my first name,
Hold on.
Enid,
Hold on. Do me a
Enid.
favor. Hold on. Enid. Kevin, can you put this in the group right now for me? Hold on. So give it to Kevin one more time slowly, please. Go ahead.
Okay. My phone number, 917-209-3533. My email, first name, Enid, ENID .OCASIO @NYPD.org.
Awesome.
Text me. I always tell people the best way to contact me is you text me or you email me. I'm out speaking to a lot of people. Sometimes I cannot answer the phone, but I'm always looking. Like my phone has been going off. That's why I keep looking to my phone. So I will definitely get back to whoever it is that is trying to contact me.
I know who texted you. You talking about, yo, listen, I'm not cooking tonight. I see you when I get home, boo. But
no, and I would provide as much information, as much counsel. But again, for anyone who is listening, if you are being chosen as the person who they are disclosing their most precious circumstances, show empathy, listen, and encourage.
And before you go, Pastor Graves, you can take us out on a prayer in this segment. But Roxanne was saying, she said, SAVI trained volunteers to provide counseling and support, service to domestic violence survivors. So I guess that's what it is. So we're going to get back to that. Everybody, we had Enid Ocasio with us. We have Doreen. Lesane. Doreen Lesane. Doreen, we're going to bring you back when we're going to pick up that Jet G. We're going to, you know what I'm saying? But we got you back. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, and my assistant co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves. Enid Ocasio, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate you and Doreen.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much. February, what's the next date? February 10th. She will be back with Doreen. Pastor Graves will be here. Kevin Branzetti and myself will be back. Kevin and I, we're just going to talk a little bit about what's happened at the White House. Pastor, take this segment out on prayer for us real quick. And Enid, just hold on for us, please. Go ahead.
Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for what you have done tonight, Lord. I thank you for the presenters, Enid Ocasio, Doreen Lesane. Lord, I thank you for our host, Bill Foster. Lord, for our co-host, Kevin Branzetti. Lord, I thank you, and I pray that, Lord, you have opened eyes and ears to those who are in need in this hour, to those who are living in fear, to those who are depressed, and yes, Lord, to those who may even be suicidal. I pray that, Lord, you would speak to those men and women, even speak, yes, to the children, Lord. Let your kingdom come. Let your perfect will be established in many households throughout our nation. We thank you for the awareness that you have brought forth this evening. And we just ask that, Lord, you continue to have your way and your men and women servants who are on the front lines when discussing domestic violence. We thank you for what you've done this evening. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
And
Amen.
before you go, Enid and Pastor Kevin, everybody, I just want to give out some public service announcements. Monday, we are having Dr. Marilyn Corder in here talking about the vaccine for those who have, this about the myths, who have fear of taking the vaccine. Malika had just did a segment last week in regards to the vaccine, and we had a bunch of nurses and pharmaceutical people. So you can go back to Real Talk Chronicles and look at that. So this Monday coming up, we have Dr. Marilyn Corder out of the DMV, world-renowned doctor, and I'm proud to say this is my first cousin. So, us Forster side, the family is kind of smart. And on the 20th, also, Kevin, on your segment, I didn't tell you, I tried to surprise you. We have the borough president of New York City, of Brooklyn,
Borough President
Eric Adams. I saw him last night, and it was confirmed. So he will be here on the 20th. And Pastor Kevin Graves, thank you for hooking that up also too. So Pastor Kevin Graves will be with us, but we have him only for half an hour. And I think I'm going to invite.
In Bill's world, a half hour means about an hour and 20.
Well, you know what? Kevin, it's so funny for his. I think it's going to really be a half an hour.
Yeah, he's getting old.
Yeah.
Right. So for him, right. So we have Monday, Dr. Marilyn Corder coming in talking about the vaccine. Anybody that you want to know about that, please listen in, because the vaccine is very prevalent and it's changing the whole world around. On the 20th, inauguration. Oh, Proud Boy is supposed to be in the building too, Kevin. But we also too, we have Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams coming in from 7 o'clock to 7:30. I'm going to invite some other people running for offices to come in on the 7:30 to maybe the 8:30 hour and just tell what they are wanting to do and why they're running. I'm going to set out that situation right now. But so this is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. So if you like it, share it, tell a friend, subscribe to it, push a thumb up to it. Enid Ocasio, Pastor Kevin Graves, we appreciate you all. Thank you so much, so much, so much.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you.
God bless
you all have a good night.
God bless you.
Thank you. Appreciate
you.
Bye-bye.
So Kev, what did you think about what we had tonight? Wasn't this an awesome show with these two, the three of them?
And the I'm a big fan of learning lessons and just true things we can use. And that quick statement of listen, empathy, and encouragement. I mean, it goes way beyond, talking to your friend who's suffering from the domestic abuse or violence. That's life.
Yeah. What did you think?
If you're not doing that to the people you love, you're not loving your people.
Yeah, Pastor, what did you think about what? Because I thought. Let me tell you something. Listening to their stories, it really it kind of warmed my heart just a little bit. I felt like the Grinch. You know what I'm saying? Like I really did. Like because what's so funny? It made me feel that being a protector wasn't always the right thing to do at that time and frame. And it needed some sympathy and some empathy, and I didn't apply that. I gave a listening ear, but I can only be who Bill is. You understand what I'm saying? But the listening from her standpoint, a professional standpoint, and I'm not too big to not step back and listen. You understand what I'm saying? So
yes,
I learned a lot listening to those two individuals, those wonderful ladies. What did you take from it?
Listening, empathy, encouragement.
Yeah.
You know something? The beauty of what I do is, and the strength, and I give God all the glory, honor, and praise. It's not me, it's the people around me. And I thank God for Enid and Doreen and the countless others that have helped me along the way. And it's not about me. It's really not. It's all about, not to preach a sermon to you, it's all about giving God the glory. And I thank God for them, because being that I don't know everything, I can always use them as a resource. I can use other resources and point people in the right direction. But while doing that, I can still demonstrate, again, listening, empathy, encouragement. And what that says to me is knowing your lane and staying in it. And if you don't know what to say, if you don't know what to do, surround yourself with people who do and let them teach you.
Absolutely. I think, what's so funny, I think maybe we might adopt that phrase. What do you think, Kevin? And Kevin, like you said, listening, empathy, and encouragement. I think maybe that might be a new segment on what
I
we're
might
trying
put that
to.
as a banner and get rid of like the background of
Yeah.
myself, right? Like I might have to put that up as a banner so the words are there, because it's important to, to have things like that visible and people keep reading it, because it triggers things in your mind, and it's, like I said, it's beyond domestic. It goes through, Barbara Jean, who's in the audience tonight, will tell you that is what it's all about for victims of child abuse, and exploitation, right? It's listening to that kid who's crying for help and spending all that time. This goes for everything. Anybody who's a victim or just depressed and lost, those three words are incredibly important. And it's simple, sounds simple, but it takes work on our end to do those three things.
And if I may add to that, and I'm not condoning sedition, many of those people who stormed the U.S. Capitol are people who felt that the government is not listening to them. Now, again, like I said, I'm not condoning insurrection or anarchy, but there are people out there, and it's more than just a few, who feel as if there are individuals who aren't hearing them. My elected officials aren't listening to me. They're not hearing me. All they care about is their own agenda and their party, and they're just not hearing me. So you know what's going to happen? We're going to have a revolution. And we were founded on a revolution.
And what's so funny? I'm glad you said that, because we only have, like I said, we're only going to the 2 hour mark. I've made a Kevin, you'll be
New Year's resolution.
Resolution that I'm only doing 2 hours, and that's it. So we had 146 on this game.
I have to say, Pastor, before you sorry, I gotta say that was the most incredible segue I've ever heard, because you flipped us where we were going to flip, and somehow you created the most beautiful segue into the next section of two things that are completely as far apart as we can possibly be as discussions.
That was intentional.
It was impressive. Impressive, young. Impressive.
That's why he's a pastor, and that's why he do what he do. Because let me tell you something. The journalistic part of me was going to bring it in that way. Just after I was piggybacking just on that.
We're not going to let you get away that easy, Kev. You know that, brother.
So with that being said, with the listening, the empathy, and the encouragement, like you said, Pastor Kev, tell me what you thought about what you saw on Wednesday.
Wow. I didn't think we can get lower as a nation, and I'm hoping that's rock bottom. I'm hoping that is finally we're at rock bottom, and some things that are. I'll go afterwards with some things I find encouraging that have come from that I think maybe we're at rock bottom. I don't lock them all up, right? I got no empathy, and I ain't listening to them.
Okay.
And I don't believe anybody should have encouraged them. Right. So I am for locking them up. But that's my opinion of any riot, right? Like, this is a riot to an extreme point. I don't care what your grievance is. When you cross that line into the world of riot, you go to jail. Now, we've crossed a severe line here. But there are some things that are encouraging. Seeing, Mike Pence walk away from Trump, to me, is an encouraging thing. I am hoping that some of our leaders use this as a moment to unite instead of bring up the fight more. I'm hopeful we go that direction. But it was
elaborate on what you mean by you hope they unite.
There are the criminal end of this, right? Lock them up. But there are also people who are very upset. Our left and right are are here at this point, right? Democrats, Republicans are here. We're constantly pointing fingers at each other. We're constantly blaming the other one. And that Wednesday was part of what happens when the powder keg is growing, right? There's going to be explosions, and that ain't going to be the only one. I hope it's the largest one in the end, but that ain't going to be the only one, I don't think.
Nope.
So
no, it won't be.
If most of us are in the middle and off the middle by a little bit, but more and more of us are kind of gone to that fringe end of each side, and we stop talking, Bill. We stop talking. You and I can politically disagree on things, but you and I are going to talk until we're blue in the face, and we may walk away from a subject and say, you know what?
Yeah,
we can't talk about this. We'll let it go, and we're fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very rare where we're going to walk away with "F you," kind of thing. And I think we're a little more at an "F you" stage in this country that I'd like to see us. I like to see our leaders kind of lead us out of. That's what leading is.
I'm just going to comment on this, and I thank you. Like I said, we got 10 minutes left. Sylvia said something. I see you 40 in the house, 40 dog. I know you got my back all the time, baby. 24 hours. He says, I hope the courts for all are not us only. Real talk. Yep. Sylvia said, she said, how crazy was it from a black cop trying to protect the white people from the white supremacists? And let me tell you something, Kevin, you know this from a standpoint, and Sylvia knows this too, because she's law enforcement, prior law enforcement, that we have always been taught, don't pull that gun out unless you have a damn good reason. We've been trained that. This new generation, I say it all the time, they pull a gun out. I'm scared. This is the one time when being scared was accountable. You could have shot somebody. Because let me tell you something. If I was working that day, there would have been a lot of red tops falling. You know what I'm saying? Or they would have had, and wait, stay with me, Kevin, on this, because the bottom line is my job, and we can go into the whole, there are a lot of people that believed in that movement, because I've always said that a lot of times when we look at why we have unjust racial issues, is because of lack of equality. Because not a Kevin Branzetti, but there are a lot of white officers, when they pull over a black or a Latino, a Latin person, they don't see equality. But the bottom line is what was shown, and this is what was shown. I had nothing to do with this. It just kind of proved my point, not from a disrespecting Kevin's aspect, but what we saw was white officers that kind of agreed with them protesting, because they may have been Trump supporters or Republicans. Fair enough, right?
Okay.
So there was a lackadaisical mentality. But the bottom line is, it showed their empathy, and they're doing their job because they care about what they saw, because they saw themselves. So they wasn't going to go hard. So this is why we tell people a lot of times, when it comes to black officers dealing with black people and or brown people, that we relate to it. There was no there was a correlation. There was a
what empathy. What empathy? So, because I can give you both sides of it, but because I want to hear this first.
Please do.
What empathy are you? Give me this. The thing you're saying, that the officers there were more empathetic
because they saw themselves first.
But tell me the incident that happened. What specific thing are you talking about? Like the holding of the door open, or
they didn't want to take. They didn't want to do their jobs. The fact that they let them take that building, the Capitol Police job was to protect that building and the people in the building. They did not do that. So with
how
that
do you know they didn't take it? I'm going to argue that with you. Now they might have, or were they outnumbered? Bill, we're seeing glimpses of cameras, right? Pieces, very, very little. They lost that building. A chunk of it for a period of time. There's no question they lost it.
And tell me why they lost the building. Tell me in your eye why they lost that building.
Let me finish. I have seen cops in Portland lose buildings. I've seen them lose precincts, overrun. Right? This has happened in other places where we've lost ground. We've lost ground. Now, that doesn't mean they intentionally lost ground. They did not have the numbers to do this. Kevin, we're looking at an NYPD. Do you know how many Capitol Police exist? It's not the NYPD, right? This is not 30,000. Capitol Police is a small small department, right? Did they have the numbers? I'm not telling you wasn't people who there were empathetic. I'm not even telling you there wasn't cops there who were like, fuck this, I'd like to go in there too, right? I'm sure they existed. But we're saying that, you know, they backed off. Now, could it happen? I haven't seen that evidence that they allowed it. I can't see that. You can't tell me, Bill. We've seen glimpses.
What about officers taking selfies with the protester? I saw a picture of a police officer actually taking a selfie with one of the insurrectionists.
And there's
That's
an
one
officer
example.
who did that. I've seen officers at, you know, Black Lives Matter protests get on a knee and pray with people too, and show empathy. You know,
but that's not insurrection.
There's not. No, some of those turn into riots, right?
But we all know there was because of antagonizers and agitators. You said that yourself.
Yeah. There's antagonizing and agitators, 100%.
And I'll give you another example. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kev. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The last line of defense, the location in the building where the woman was shot, there were officers in front of that door. Now, so why did they move? We can say, well, they moved because they didn't want to get injured or possibly even killed. Or they say, you know what, forget this, let them have their way. So, but again, we have to get into the minds of those officers in terms of why they did move. That was the last line of defense, by the way.
There was the last line of defense. They got overrun. Now, they got overrun, right? They let that door open. But there was also an officer on the other side of the door who was being crushed. They let that door open. Let's also remember, they did shoot that woman who was an unarmed woman. Right? An unarmed white woman they did shoot at that protest. Killed her.
Popped her right in the neck. And let me tell you something. Let me just say this, Kevin. He shot 1 out of 15. Let me tell you something. We've seen black people get shot 31 times.
He shot an unarmed protester.
Can you tell me?
He shot an unarmed trespasser. Excuse me.
Can you tell me a time, an incident where, if it was racially different, where we would be okay with an unarmed black woman being shot?
Was she trespassing?
So we're saying unarmed trespassing is okay to be shot.
No, what we're saying is,
when I enter my household, there's a difference, Pastor, of me in my home, you coming through into my home, that's a different thing. We're talking about entering a building, right? Are we saying now that that's okay?
Forcibly into a building. A building.
100%.
Yeah. So the problem is that she's coming into a place. You're not invited there. You are now trespassing against federal property.
So let's go to like Portland and the other places where they were trespassing and breaking into police precincts. If the cops stood inside the precinct and just started shooting, would that have been okay?
Yeah.
You guys would have been okay with that?
Yes, because the bottom line, first and foremost, no, because you know what the bottom line is? These Capitol Police officers, their job is to protect the Senate.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right? And they failed their job.
Well, no, they didn't. Did anybody from the Senate or Congress get touched? No. Now we're in a different area. You just said it, Bill. Their job was to protect them. Did any single person in the U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, get the slightest bit injured? No,
because they were extracted from the building. Because
that's their job. Their job isn't to stand and fight when they're overwhelmed. They're to make sure their protectees are protected, and they got them out.
Let me ask you a question.
They got them out.
We got a lot of comments in this.
I can't even read the comments because we're so.
Yeah, but the bottom line is their job is to protect the building and the people in the building. Correct? Is that the? We're not talking about NYPD. We're just talking about the Capitol Police. Their job is to protect the building and the people in the building, right?
Their job is to protect the people. Capitol Police, they travel with Nancy Pelosi. They travel with Chuck Schumer. Their job, you don't
even have to just say them. They got Republicans in there too.
No, not them. Just them. They're the Secret Service, like a uniform Secret Service for U.S. senators and congressmen. That's what their job is. Their job is to protect the people. That's their assignment in life. It is not to protect the building; it's the people, and they did protect those people.
So let me ask you a question. I'm gonna just deviate for a minute. What did you think about them trying to stop democracy?
They're out of their mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, right. You can agree or disagree with an election, and that's your right. I've heard a lot since the day of the election that there was a lot of fraud. My speculation in life, there's always a little bit of fraud at every election, right? There's always a little bit on both sides. No, but nobody showed me one lick of evidence of fraud that occurred. So to me, it's a valid.
So let me ask you a question right there.
A valid election.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that this election was valid?
Yeah, there's not a single bit of proof that otherwise.
Okay, excellent. Good. Go ahead, good.
I'm sorry, Kev. Well, what were you saying before that? I was having some technical difficulty.
I don't know which before that. I was talking about the job of the
about the building trespassing, and what I was saying is that when you have that kind of insurgency, that kind of incursion, and it's done in the manner not that it make a difference what manner it was done in. It could have been. What if that woman had a gun? We don't know that.
I'm not saying the cops are wrong. They're shooting her. No, don't get me. I'm just saying is, I take a lot of heat on this show in discussions about cop shootings throughout the country. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you're white and you just got to do it. You got to take it for the white.
And I'm here to do that, right? I'm here to talk exactly. And so, having an unarmed woman shot, normally wouldn't go over well with most people.
Do you think that shooting was justified?
It sounds like it, but I'd like to see the full details, right? Mm. Right. Anytime you have a shooting, because honestly, Pastor, what do we know about the shooting?
What did you see, Kevin? What did you see?
Was coming through. He was shot. She was shot.
She was trying to get through the broken window, and before her feet could even hit the other side of the floor, she was shot, which means she went backwards instead of forwards.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds what I'm hearing. It is perfectly justified, and it should have been done.
Last line of defense: you try to come through that window.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying I have an issue with that. I'm just going with. I want to understand the line of Bill and everybody else.
It may be still in being it might still be in the investigating process.
When you want to hold on, Pastor. When you say you want to understand them, because a lot of times people, you say you want to understand what do we mean? Tell me what you're saying, because maybe I could have helped you out.
Like when they took over police precincts in certain cities in this country. Storm. Right. Could the cops have stayed in that precinct and shot people as they tried to break through? Well,
how do you feel about it? Because you're asking.
I'm a fan of shooting is the last line of defense, and is a piece of property worth shooting somebody? It's very difficult, right? In my home, don't get me wrong, Bill. You come through the window of my home, you're not going to have a pleasant surprise, right? Like,
absolutely.
And I believe everybody's home is that sanctuary.
So let me ask you a question. Are precincts, Capitol buildings, places of legislation and stuff like that, where they're held, are those places of sanctuary where they are be able to be protected by law enforcement? In your eye?
Listen, I don't think they should have in Portland, and what was the other one? I don't think they should have. Yes.
I don't want you to stay in Portland. I want you to come to DC because you going to Portland. I want you to come to DC.
It should have been protected. Do I think it should have been protected? Hell yeah, I think it should have been protected. That's the United States.
So then that's what I need. That's what we need you to hear, because the bottom line, you keep going back to Portland.
I'm not against this shooting, Bill. I'm just using this as a point of reference for other incidents that have gone in this country.
But this is what I'm hearing.
Honestly, I believe if we had at something similar, if it was in, I won't say Portland, we'll say Seattle, and it was a precinct or something was being overrun, and a black protester was shot and killed trying to do it, I don't know if you'd have the same reaction.
Well, first and foremost, Kevin, black people are not stupid.
Well, let's hope we never find out.
Take over. First and foremost,
I'll take that one.
Let me just say this. As you stated before, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Black Lives Matter, since you bringing up Portland, because this is what we're talking about, and this is what I've heard and no disrespect to you, white officers that I've talked to talk about. They want to bring up Portland. They want to bring up Black Lives Matter. But first and foremost, Black Lives Matter. How do you equate when I've heard white people, officers, correct me, and Kevin, please correct me, if we've talked about, we understood that Black Lives Matter was infiltrated by Antifa and antagonizers,
Of
right?
course. And there's
Agitators.
probably some members of Black Lives Matter who are just jerks to begin with too, right? There's no,
but there's no proof that wait a minute,
perfect.
there's no proof that Black Lives Matter did looting and rioting.
Well, I'm going to start checking their cards. That's going to be.
Then we need you to do that. But one thing is, we know what we saw. We know what we saw Wednesday.
Hmm?
It wasn't Antifa and it wasn't antagonizers.
So Wednesday's a mixture of people, right? It's not.
But I'm gonna lean back on you. I'm gonna let you talk.
It's are there white supremacists there? Yeah, 100%. Were there some neo-Nazis there? Maybe, but they were going to be more antagonized. Neo-Nazis don't like Trump. Neo-Nazis, who is their worst enemy in the world? Who do they hate more than anything else?
I don't know, because right now you
Jewish people,
you're
right?
fishing. You're fishing.
No, I'm not fishing, Bill. This is what I do for a living. So,
I'm sure they hate black people too.
Oh, they do, but Jewish people are the high mark on their list, and Trump is a very pro-Israel president.
Oh, he is he? Okay, all right.
I don't think you can argue that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, all right.
So they have an issue with him. Believe me, they do. But white nationals, white supremacists, no, that's a different entity. You have your QAnon crazies, right? Your conspiracy theory crazies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were people of color there. Not many, but there was some.
Enrique Tarrio.
Are you really fishing like that? You're
Enrique Tarrio. He wasn't there, but Enrique Tarrio is actually the president of
the Proud Boys.
And he's Afro-Cuban.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Proud Boys are a whole other
entity. What I'm
entity.
trying to say, Pastor and Kevin, what I'm trying to say is, listen, when you looked in that crowd, it wasn't like you was like, oh shit, there's Jimmy, there's Melquan, there's Keith. No, they
were predominantly white. Right. Yeah, there was some of us sprinkled in there, but it was predominantly white.
100%. Absolutely. But I'm saying that it's not. You can't just say the whole the group that stormed it was white supremacists, right? There's a mixture of jackasses and criminals who stormed that place.
Conspiracy groups, extremists. You have those fringe groups. It was a melange of groups.
Yeah. And did they believe they were going to take over? Yeah, they did. Like they were that. They're that lost as people.
They were looking for the House Speaker and her staff. They made it very clear.
They were in there with
Mike Pence. They made it very clear what they were there for.
If they would have got a hold of members of Congress, I would have feared for their lives. 100%. Right?
Same here.
Right. I don't. You know, it would have looked like it was a scene from the Dark Knight movies.
Yep.
You know, when they took over Manhattan and were creating their own court and convicting. I think that's what they would have turned that.
And how do you feel about that? Because that's something worse than ever happened. Black Lives Matter people do protest.
Billy, lock them up. Like I'm consistent on that. I got no.
Black Lives Matter wouldn't have gotten anywhere near the building. Come on, let's be honest. They wouldn't have gotten near the steps. They would have had National Guard, DC police, Secret Service police. It wouldn't have, if that was a Black Lives Matter protest or incursion or attempted insurrection, it would have been dealt with. It wouldn't have gotten to that point. We wouldn't have gotten anywhere near the building.
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah.
What I could say is they definitely management there screwed something up terribly.
Some issues of intelligence as well.
It was just about management. That's what you really think it was about.
Frontline cops do what frontline cops are told to do, right? Like frontline cops are told, you know.
So let me
protect something. They're going to protect it. Frontline cops are told to move into that.
You and I are there, and they're about to come in that police. Who's shooting? Are we both shooting, or you just shooting, or you're not shooting and I'm shooting? Because I'm shooting. I'm letting you know I'm shooting. I'm busting some caps and some ass, and I got 30 rounds.
We can say that. Actually, well, if you got 30, you're missing, right? Because it's 40. It's 46 rounds. We got
46. Well, I'm just saying, at least. Well, I'm shooting 30, and I'm looking for backup because the bottom line is, I know one thing. when she got popped in her ass and she fell back, they didn't rush that door.
Yeah.
They fell back, right? So let me tell you something. Bullets talk, bullshit walk. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect.
And there is a clear time when you have to use deadly physical force. You know, I got no issue with it. I wish they didn't have to, and I'm sure that cop in the end wishes he didn't have to. Right? Nobody wants to kill another human being.
I wonder what the guidelines are with regards to if this building is compromised in some way, if it is breached. What is the protocol? What do the officers do in terms of if there's an insurrection? What are the guidelines for the police officers? Number one, I'm sure it's to secure those who are in the building. And do they set up a perimeter where they say, okay, you can't go but so far? Yeah. And if they breach that, it's on.
There, you know,
what are the rules of engagement? That's the word.
That's a great question. I have no idea. And I wonder if they even had that for an insurrection of that magnitude. Like, I wonder if they train those cops in that, because it's almost considered an unheard of kind of thing. I know their main job, though, is to protect members of Congress, protect the lives of members of Congress. That is
by any means necessary.
Their duty. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
If those members of Congress did not have an escape route, and there's more than one way to get out of that building. We won't go into any of those kind of details.
Right.
If they didn't have the all clear that they're gone, I think a lot more people would have got shot coming through there. Right. They would not have let them in the chamber with members of Congress in there.
So you think so let me ask you a question from your personal feelings that you felt once they was able to extract the senators, that they were able, they said to themselves, we'll relinquish the building.
I think they relinquished part of it. I don't think they had a choice. I don't think it's a relinquish, meaning like, hey, come on in. They're overpowered and they needed to regroup. You know, they're pulling back. They're getting their members of Congress out. They're protecting them. Then when you're pulling back, you're taking a large part of your force with you to protect those members. You're leaving less on your perimeter. Your perimeter is breached. You pull everybody back, you regroup, and then there's a forcing them out. Like, that didn't last long, right? That siege did not last long. They didn't have
it lasted the night.
They didn't. That by at 1:00 in the morning, Congress was back in there voting, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't last long. That for a siege, that's not lasting long, right? They went back in there and they got everybody out.
I personally don't know.
They made a call for the National Guard and for additional law
they needed help.
Yeah,
they needed help.
Well, personally, let me just say this: I've never timed sieges, so I don't know what siege time is. Maybe you do, but the bottom line is, I know the fact is a siege is a siege. You know what I'm saying? So you talking about it didn't last long. I know the damn thing. I know they were scared. So the bottom line is, let me ask you a question. So what do you think about Kevin and you know, Pastor? What do you think about your boy 45 inciting this riot? Because it was his words that set the flames.
100%. I ain't arguing that. Now, I've listened to a little bit of it since then. I don't know if he crossed the line to the criminal, right? Like, he clearly didn't say,
I'm coming back.
He clearly didn't say, let's go take the building, right? Like, that was never said.
No,
right?
He said it. He didn't.
No, he did not say go and take the building.
What did he say?
Coded language.
Coded language. I agree with you, Pastor. So, but that's where the criminal line, you know, becomes a very tough one to go with, right? Saying take the building, go get them, clearly criminal language and arrestable. Clearly,
it's too obvious too. He's not going to say that.
It is
to say that.
But saying things to encourage people to that this happened, I was cheated, I won, let's go to the Capitol.
Defend me.
It's
well, he did tell him to go up the steps.
It's going to take a lot of dissecting of that to see, does that cross that line? It's not crystal clear. Crystal clear is crystal clear.
You really don't think it's crystal? Kevin, you don't really think it's crystal clear?
For a criminal charge, Bill? No, that's not crystal clear.
The president of the United States can't tell a group of people.
Hold on, Pastor. So you really now you want to throw in semantics?
You have to. If you're talking about criminal charges.
So when he said, go walk, we're going to march down there and take those steps. What he just said yesterday, he said, if you impeach me, there are going to be a lot of problems. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I also think impeaching him at this point is a mistake. Let him just get rid of. I
disagree.
And I understand the reason behind it. So I'll give you my thought on that. Why I would not impeach.
Yes.
Because I mean, this is fun at this point, right?
Yes.
I am sure I'm taking a beating on these comments tonight, but I'm not really.
They are all in your derriere. When you go, later on, this is all. And listen, first of all, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. If you like it, share it, subscribe to it, thumbs up. I got my host with me this evening. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I got my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. I got my co-host, my assistant, special guest co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves in the building. I'm applauding Kevin because listen, it is a shame that he has to take this whipping because listen, by the skin tone of his color, because let me tell you something, and he's a Republican too. So Kevin, you know what's so funny? I personally put a post out recently. I'm gonna let you take some more beatings, but I'm gonna put out a post out recently that I said anybody that voted for him in 2016 need to apologize to the country. And let me tell you something. I know you voted for him because you're a Republican. You voted for him. I'm not even gonna ask you what you did on 2020 because
you've already asked that. I've answered. But go ahead.
Did you vote for him?
No.
Okay, good. But so 2016. Let me tell you something. Maya Angelou always said, if somebody shows you who they are, you need to believe them. Everybody knew that he was a con man. And we talk about draining the swamp, but all he has done was show divisiveness in this country. I feel he has not, I'm going to say personally, I'm talking for me, Bill Forster, he hasn't done anything that has brought this country together.
No.
He has done nothing. And
put an exclamation point at the end of his, like he had one of the most controversial presidencies in the history of our nation. And the only reason I could say one of the most is because I wasn't alive for the majority of them to really give you an assessment of the others. But for my living years, by far the most controversial, and that's the politest thing I could say, president we've ever had. And he put an exclamation point on it that I just could not imagine he would have. And he did. And he is still sitting there, fighting it. I don't get it. He's an embarrassment to us.
So let me ask you a question. And Pastor, I'll let you chime in after. So Kevin, as a Republican that has some common sense, so I'm gonna speak for you, and you can correct me, and you can chime in on this. You're a Republican, but you're not a Trump supporter. If I'm wrong, you correct me. What do you feel as a Republican how he's destroyed the GOP?
I don't know if he's destroyed the GOP, but look, I don't like. After every election, somebody says, "Well, that one destroyed the GOP, or that one destroyed the Democratic Party," and it's all. Those two parties are still going to be our main two parties 20 years from now. Unfortunately, I'm more of a third party man myself, and I'd like to have something come out more towards the middle. Right.
Okay.
My favorite politician, was Bloomberg. Right. Like I thought Bloomberg was a just pragmatic individual. I might have disagreed with him on some things, but he did it because he thought it was the right thing to do, not because he put his finger up and felt the winds. Right. So I respected that, and fiscally, he's as smart as there is out there, right? So I don't think it's the end of the GOP. I'm not happy with the GOP, but I wasn't happy with the GOP before him, and I'm not happy with the Democratic Party. I'm still told you, I am looking for the leader that can actually lead and unite. And I don't care which side of the aisle he starts off his career on. Doesn't matter to me.
I understand that. I respect that. I mean, I think I told somebody the other day via text. I said, listen, I'm a registered Democrat. My father was a Republican, but I said I vote for who's going to do the right thing for this country. It doesn't make a difference what political party. I'm not into red and blue. I look good in both colors. It doesn't make a difference to me. You know what I'm saying? That's a little vanity thing. I had to just chime in. Kevin, you are getting chewed up and spit out. You have a lot to do later on
and the
tonight.
thing I'm not, you know, like if I was like a forever Trumper kind of guy, like I would have really like, you know, I'm thinking, well, I'm trying to walk a fine line up the middle here, and I'll take it a beat.
But I think, well, you know what, the fine line was when you kind of try to put clarity or justify what a lot of times, and I think I've even said this as a black man, to see all these white individuals take part in what I've heard so many of our former law enforcement co-workers denounce Black Lives Matter, even though when they've known things have been infiltrated. To see this and to understand that right now we have the FBI, we have branches of law enforcement all over the world doing an investigation to find out what law enforcement members of the service were there, because not that they can't protest if they believe in something, but make sure that they didn't breach and into that building unlawfully, because that's the trespass. That's the crime.
And I don't know if trespass is even, I think it sounds like a soft word, right? To me, trespass is like the park's closed at night and then I enter a park. That's trespass. You broke into the Capitol. That's a little more than a trespass, right? Like, let's, you know, and I don't know what the right term is for that, but, you know, is it burglary at that point? You know, right? Because they entered and remained to commit a crime.
Well,
right. Like, this wasn't trespass. I went to the park late at night and it was closed and I was just want to hang out and drink a beer. You know, I always consider trespass a very weak thing, and I don't think this.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Kevin, because and Pastor, you know, anytime you want to chime in, you just said that we can't just call it trespass because that's a little minuscule, and you know, we're downplaying what they did. So, with that being said, they vandalized a federal building. They went without permission. So, you know, we don't know if they went
if they had cuffs on them. Right?
Well, if they went without permission and they don't belong in the building, that's trespassing. But you're right. They broke into the building.
It might be a different crime for that, for breaking it into it there, right? It might. I don't know what the federal statute is for that. But look, they're being arrested, right? What was sort of great about all this is these morons didn't hide their faces. They were loud and proud. And there is pictures and videos of all of them, and they're all being arrested one by one. I'm seeing the other end of this, right? Like their wanted posters are going out, they're being identified, and every state, this guy's getting picked up, this guy's getting picked up, this woman's getting picked up, they're getting arrested. What's the if you want to get the stats on the arrests, George Washington University, the counter extremism project keeps them all. I'll Google it and I'll put it in the thing. It's you can get, I mean, the actual stats of who's arrested, what are they being charged with, who's being charged with, from trespass to, you know, gun violations and other things, right? But these guys are all being arrested. If you went in there with flex cuffs, I would be looking to charge you with, you know, attempted kidnapping. And along those lines, right? Like that's the direction this is going to go. These people,
you know what's so funny,
they're going to go to jail.
Let me just say this: anybody that's in that building, I'm gonna charge them with attempted kidnapping, because the bottom line is you're in there, and you and I know, or a lot of times people get charged with the guilty by association.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is no problem. Kevin, what do you think about the law enforcement officers, our fellow co-workers, that are talking about downplaying this, like, and still feeling like Trump is a good president, and like you said, he's sending out subliminal messages all the time. And you know what's so funny? So who would you like to see? You don't want him impeached, because the bottom line is they're trying to impeach him so he'll never run for another political office again. Right now he's 17 million in the hole. He's in problem. He has a problematic situation. So Go ahead.
I'd like to think that he will never run for office again because nobody would ever vote for him again. That enough of us, there were, like I said, you have the kooks who are complete Trump fanatics, but he lost a lot of people, right? He lost a lot of people during his 4 years. But I think last week put an exclamation point on losing a tremendous high percentage, and he will lose, whatever he has. To me, impeaching him, my opinion in theory, is it gives that. I'm worried about the fringe. So my life, right, is on violent extremists of all kinds. It breeds into them. It gives them more fuel. I think you put him out to pasture. I'd like to actually see Biden come in and pardon him and just send him out to pasture.
No, I think if you don't impeach,
it's just my opinion.
In my opinion,
I'm going to change.
I'm
going to change your name to Pastor Kevin Branzetti, and his name is Sergeant Kevin Graves. Because you done lost your mind, dude.
That's
ahead,
very
Pastor
fine
Graves.
and noble, but by impeaching him, you're sending Joe Biden, you're sending President-elect Biden a message, and presidents that are going to come after him, that if you ever try anything like this, if you ever try to incite an insurrection, this is what's going to happen to you. So you have to impeach him to send a message, not just to Trump, but to every elected official, that if you incite an insurrection, this is what's going to happen to you. And another thing too, because right now he's just been impeached. He hasn't been convicted yet, which means that you can impeach him, but you really haven't. Yeah, it's certainly it's a part of his legacy, and it doesn't look good. But you don't want to just impeach him and he runs again in 2024. You want to make sure that, again, the Senate can come in, whether it's under the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Doesn't look like Mitch McConnell's going to do anything. Looks like he's going to defer. But to impeach him and to convict him, that is significant. And another thing too, can you convict a former president? Is that constitutional? I have to look into that. I don't know. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I have to look into that.
Yeah, look, like I said, it's a tough one. To me, it is, and it's not defending Trump. I'm not defending Trump on this, and I don't want Trump to ever. I don't want to see Trump ever, right? Like I would like to, can we remove his citizenship and push him to an island? I would be fine with that. I'm worried about the fringe kooks that are out there and giving them more fuel. That's the things that worry me in life. So it's not a defense of Trump, and please don't take it that way. He gets whatever he gets in life, and he deserves everything he gets because of what he did. But part of me actually thinks it would hurt him more by Biden saying, "I'll be the bigger man. I pardon you. And push him out the pasture, and just everybody just ignore Trump's existence."
Let me tell you something. I hear you, Kevin, and I'm glad you put some clarity to it, because I think it's important that people understand what your point of references is. I personally feel that what we just saw was a disgusting, and I hate to equate it to a pet. I think these people are so brainwashed. They're so Jim Jones on him. I feel that it is almost equivalent to, like, you can kick your dog, a abusive person kicking a dog, and the dog still coming back and wanting to be pet. The bottom line is these people honestly feel that there's some fraudulent situation going on in his voting thing. Instead of him conceding, he has shown that he is narcissistic. He has shown all the negativity and things, that magnitude, that have just disgusted this country. And the fact of it is, he keeps lighting the flame that causes a problem in this country, and these people are just. It's almost like watching a movie, a Purge or something like that, where they're coming out and you know, Pastor, you maybe you can comment on this from like I said, a biblical standpoint or a religious standpoint, because these cats right now have lost their mind. Let me tell you something. They was climbing the Capitol like monkeys. I thought I was watching Planet of the Apes or something like that. And and in their mind, they really feel like this dude has been cheated. And you know, I don't want to go so far, but I'm going to go there because it's real talk. It's a lot of these non-educated white people that have felt to his buffoonery. And you know, it's so funny. It's one thing to stay red. It's one thing to stay blue. It is what it is. There's enough of that right now. We're talking about, you know, making this country a better place. But right now, if you're not disgusted by what you saw, then you are part of the problem. But you know what? When you start seeing all these law enforcement people coming out of the woodwork, listen, we see a lot of law enforcement people, they're not in outrage as they were when Black Lives Matter. When you see an officer get hit with a brick, oh my God, Black Lives Matter, they're a terrorist group. You saw an officer get crushed by a door by these individuals. You saw an officer get dragged down.
An officer died.
And died. You saw another officer die, die. You saw an officer kill himself because he probably was, caught up in some buffoonery. And you see, all you see is like, oh, I denounce the violence, but Portland. And they said a lot of things similar to what you said. That's why everybody in here is jumping in your behind, in your in your fruit of the looms, because when you mentioned Portland, you gave a butt. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, well, Black Lives Matter did it, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that just cites a like what? Go ahead.
Well, one I threw in the chat the website if you wanted to see who's actually been charged. It's all listed. The extremism project at GW University is terrific if you want to follow these kinds of things. Illegal entry and activity on designated ground is what that charge is. But like I said, you can go into the chat. There's 54 people so far who have been arrested or charged. And that number is going to go up.
I'm just going to read some of the comments and statements.
Hey guys, I'm going to have to go. I have to charge my device. So I just wanted to log back on and let you know that I have to go.
Your pastor, I might use the same excuse because he's about to read comments.
No, well, Pastor, we're about to get out of here. Kevin, Pastor, I'll see you next week. I'm just going to read the comments. Kevin and we're going to get out of here too because I don't want to keep them past this. I can't protect them. I'm a step, because if they want them, I might have to step back and let them get like they got that building. Kevin Branzetti, I got your back. I ain't gonna let nobody beat your ass.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking through it. It's not that bad.
I know.
There you go.
No, it's not.
That's right. We're family here. All right, guys.
Exactly.
I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later, Pastor Graves.
All right, Pastor, leave me when I'm down. Thank you.
All right.
Abandon ship.
No. You know I love you, brother.
I'm playing with you. I'm playing with you, buddy.
I'm sorry.
So
God bless. Have a good night, guys.
God bless you. Good night.
I'll see you later. So, Kev, I'm not even gonna read these comments because I'll let you go back and do them on your own. But what the bottom line is, I think people right now are just so tired of the buffoonery from this dude, and I think anybody that sounds remotely putting a signature on him sounds like you're part of the problem. I mean, can you understand that kind of ideology?
Putting your signature on him?
When I say putting a signature on, when they say, "Well, what about Portland?" You came out and put clarity. You said I didn't vote for him. You said I denounce everything that I'm saying. Everybody lock him up. So you did put clarity on it. Yeah. But then but before you came in with the bob and the weave, and you said, well, what about with Portland when they took the police station? Should they have shot? The bottom line is that's like
Because I honestly, Bill, I don't believe the reaction would have went well. I honestly believe if the cops in Portland or other cities would have shot people unarmed breaking into the precinct, it would not have went over well.
And you might be right. And listen, real talk, you might be right, and I'm not going to dispute that. But what I think people are trying to say is that what we saw was white people taking advantage of the same things that black people would have never been able to do. And we saw peaceful protesters getting maced we've seen it. There's clips of it. Peaceful protesters throw their hands up talking to law enforcement and still getting maced and pushed and for reasons unbeknown to us, because I don't know what was in that officer's mind. But what we saw here was white people charging, rioting, looting, disrespecting a building, and we saw
that was polite. Disrespecting a building.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to say that, and then you saw officers taking selfies with them, equivalent to Black Lives Matter officers taking a knee.
Well,
So,
no, but also you're talking about a selfie. But
Exactly.
you're talking about, one, I need to see the selfie, right? Like which person, who took the selfie, where was it? Did they take a selfie with somebody who just was trying to force their way in? Or is this somebody who was like hanging out at the outskirts of the protest and they took a selfie?
No, he was in the building. He was in the building. I'm gonna
the actual Capitol.
Yes.
If a cop took a selfie with somebody who broke into the Capitol, that cop's got to lose his job.
I'll send it to you.
I can't.
You don't have to.
Why? And me, I'll defend cops pretty. Like I defended that.
Kevin, just like this.
Yeah, nah.
I'm talking about Kevin. They showing cops fist bumping, all kind of shit.
If it's in the Capitol. Goodbye.
Okay, good.
You're fired. If it's out on the street, I may disagree with you, but you're allowed to look. I was one of the things I was looking through, like all the people who were wanted, who kept showing up on the posters, waiting for somebody I knew, like going, shit, there's Bobby. I grew up with that guy.
I'm sure we will find some people. Anybody out here, can you please put in this group right now, for Kevin, the video? Can you copy the link and put the video in there for Kevin? Because they're all out there on social media for him to see and want, and we want to feed his appetite with all this nonsense.
And
it is crazy.
And I saw something in there, and I haven't read that much of it, about sedition and things along those lines. And should there be people in there charged with sedition? Yeah. And it won't. I would be kind of shocked if it doesn't come down at some point. But that's a charge that's going to take time, because just being there and breaking in, you can't charge the person with that. You have to get into mindset and why they were there. Being there with flex cuffs, kind of a hint, right? Like you don't break your way into a building with flex cuffs. It's a strange item to have on you.
Well, you saw that they vandalized. You saw they destroyed the media's equipment. I don't know. Have you seen a lot of this, or you've been kind of doing Kevin Branzetti on the low? Because have you seen what's really been happening out here?
So I've watched a little, and I'm waiting for the aftermath, because there's too much noise when it's this close to the event. The bigger the event, the more noise that exists in the stratosphere. So I'm waiting for reports to come in and things to cool down. Am I doing a lot of reading? Yeah, I do a lot of reading on this.
Okay, well, I know a lot of things have been put out there. First and foremost, they destroyed a lot of the journalists' equipment, because especially if it was from CNN or MSNBC, they destroyed their equipment.
All crimes, all should be charged. I got no issue with that. But I'm saying that what's going to happen is, like, they're getting arrested now. Like I said, the charge is illegal entry and activity on a designated ground, the KA trespass felony or some sort. They're going to, these people are going to get arrested. They're going to do investigations, looking through their postings, their social media, their text messages. And when you start to find the evidence of their goal, which a lot of them, what their goal was a coup, I want them all charged for that. Right? If their goal was, because a lot of people say we should take back our government, we should riot, we should revolt. I've heard that it's like, to me, schoolyard talk crap. But then when you say stuff like that and then you break into the Capitol, you should be charged with it. And you could do the next 25 years in prison thinking about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Shout out
I
to
think that's
everybody.
going to happen. I actually think that's going to happen to some of the people there. They're going to be charged with major crimes against this country.
And I'm gonna ask you one more question before you go. I just want to give the public service announcement. First and foremost, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. Behind me, that's my lovely wife, Malika Forster. We have my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. We had Pastor Kevin Graves in the building today with Doreen, Lesane, and Enid, Ocasio, talking about domestic violence. It was a great show. Please subscribe to it or go back and look at it. We had a lovely show last week. Malika interviewed healthcare workers, frontline nurses, and pharmaceutical individuals in lieu of the vaccine. Should they take it or not take it? This Monday coming up, we will have Dr. Marilyn Quarter in the building talking, Real Talk with Allison Williams. We have Dr. Marilyn Quarter in the building, and she will be talking about the myths and the disclaimers in taking the vaccine. On the 20th, we will have Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams in the building talking about his political campaign to be the mayor. And, this is Real Talk Chronicles. We are here talking about it. We're trying to make it happen. Like it, subscribe to it, share it. Please, I see your comments. I think Michelle, shout out to all of you in here. Brian, I see you, Brian Douglas Hall. Michelle, I think she put in something here for you, YouTube, Kevin, so you can watch and look at it later. I'm going to let Kevin have one last comment before we get out of here in lieu of what is he hopeful in regards to this whole presidential thing. Listen, Trump just said recently, he says, if you try to impeach me, it's going to get worse. It's going to be more violent. Listen, a threat is a threat. If that was a domestic violence situation and a guy said to a girl, yo, listen, if you leave me, this is not going to turn out good. We would be like, what does that mean? That's a threat. So why is it that people are going on a deaf ear in regards to what he just said? Kevin, before we go.
I don't know if people are going on a deaf ear. I just gave my look. This is it's my opinion. Does my opinion mean I'm right and I can be proven wrong? I think the best thing is to put him out to pasture. And you're watching as social media companies eliminated him. Companies are eliminating their contracts with Trump International, Trump Corporation. The city just eliminated its contracts with them. I think eliminating his platform for hopefully forever, that's what's going to ruin him as a person, right? Like he wants this attention. He wants all this stuff. I'm just not into giving it to him. But I'm with the rest of you, right? Like, I don't want to see him in office ever again. I don't. So I don't. My belief on how to get there is put him out to pasture. Could I be wrong? Yeah, I could be wrong. Impeaching him. Maybe it works. Maybe it shuts him up. I don't know. I'm always into taking the high ground, Bill. And the high ground is Biden saying, I pardon him, get rid of him, and throw him out. Don't
Well,
ever invite him.
how about we just let Letitia James go after him
Well, that's a different. See, those things are still on the table. That's a different thing, right?
So let me ask you a question. Would you like to see him prosecuted for anything Letitia James from state or federal laws?
if he committed a crime, he should be
Yeah.
prosecuted. If anybody committed a crime, they should be prosecuted. Right?
Okay.
If there is somewhere in his corporation, his paperwork, his stuff that he was committing tax evasion, let's go to jail for it. Right? Like I got no empathy. I think it's one of the words of the night, right? I got no empathy for any politician. Right? Like I think the majority of them, their bank accounts are a little larger than they should be. And if we could figure it out and find this criminal activity, lock them up. No issue.
Before we go, what is your personal feeling? Do you think he should be locked up?
If he could, if we're talking about if there's
we
a
know
crime,
he committed a crime, so I don't know when you get
you
if, bro.
no, you can't say Look, he's also the top of a corporation, right? So, if his business did some shady stuff, is it going to be easy to get to him? Never. It's never easy to get to the person at the top. They protect themselves pretty well. They all have fall guys, right? We have watched this with politicians. We could talk about what's our guy, governor from New Jersey, right? With the Washington Bridge scandal, right? His people went to jail for that.
Yeah.
Governor Cuomo has had his associates go to jail for improper voter stuff. Christie, Cuomo's done it. De Blasio's had friends go to jail, for their finances to do with campaign stuff. These guys know how to create that wall.
What do you think about Giuliani? Do you think he should be barred?
He kills me because I believe he was one of the best mayors and politicians of his time when he was here. Yeah.
Oh my God! Why do you feel that?
Because I grew up in the city of New York, and I remember what the city looked like. I remember what the city looked like before him and after him.
But what did he do that made you feel that he was so good? I have to ask that.
When he was mayor, you don't think there was a massive change in the city, the city's feel, the city's crime, the city's look?
Well, I'm gonna give you some facts.
Okay.
I worked for the Koch Dinkins administration. I understand that you and I both came on the Safe Streets, Safe Fund, right? What I do understand is that all the things that Giuliani implemented, besides all the things that he implemented were already, all the things that he kept on course was the same things that Dinkins put into fruition with Safe Streets and Safe Fund. I know that factually because I was part of that administration. So the bottom line is Giuliani didn't do shit. He gave cops zeros. The only thing that he did. Wait, hold on. You asked me. Wait a minute. All he did was take away the quality of life. I give him that. He capitalized on the squeegees and the homeless people because he gave us Condor. He let us arrest people. So he didn't do anything. So when people say when you say something like, wait a minute, let me finish. I'll let you say it. When people talk about he was the greatest mayor and he was the worst piece of shit, he was a punk. And what's so funny? Cops loved him for whatever reason. All he did was deal with the quality of life, and I give him that. I will give him that. He concentrated on quality of life. But the same thing, Julian. What's this boy's name? 45. He came in here and everybody was like, "Oh, you have delusional people talking about, oh, he gave black people more jobs." That was the same thing Obama started and he piggybacked on, because I know when I was working for the mayor under Koch and Dinkins into Giuliani's administration, what they did is that when it was already started, they just took their name off and put their name on and let it flow. So go ahead.
He took the Safe Streets, which gave him the manpower. But I'm not talking about just Safe Streets. He also pushed sanitation. Do you remember growing up, Bill? There were burned out cars all over the city of New York, right? Mm-hmm. Like they existed. They just cars on crates. The tires taken. They were everywhere. That wasn't allowed anymore when Giuliani took over. He made sanitation, clean them things up. They had to be done, and they disappeared, right? 42nd Street was a cesspool. It is now a place you can clearly take your family.
Yes.
So there is more than the west side of Manhattan looked disgusting, back in the day. It's a beautiful place now. We have these things.
So let me. What you saying
there was more than just the law and order.
Was that Giuliani or was that Dinkins? Do you know that?
Giuliani. For which part?
Giuliani was the mayor when it was done, but was it Dinkins who implemented those rules and regulations?
For making sanitation clean up?
Yes.
Giuliani did it overnight. He just told them that's it.
You really think so? Maybe you need to check on that because the bottom line is, and the reason why I'm not trying to say that to be disrespectful, because I think a lot of times what we find out is that when people get into office, they want to clap because it's changed on their watch. The bottom line is
100%, Bill. Everybody does that. Everybody wants to, if the stock market goes up, I take credit for it, whether I'm the president now or the president three presidents ago, right? Like they all, and honestly, it's some of that's also very confusing, right? At times, right? Who is responsible for the boom in the economy? Is it the current president or the previous president? Because things were set in motion and it takes years to change. I don't know. We could sit there and argue with economics like that all day long.
Exactly.
The thing about cleaning up the cars,
the bull and the bear. That's what they call it.
My recollection of it was Giuliani ordering and giving his commissioner a time frame that it had to be done. Could Dinkins have done that beforehand? Sure. Did Dinkins get the money for the safe streets? 100% that was him. Did I have a job because of Dinkins? Yeah. But my class was it was 1993, it was 2,000 cops. That's a Dinkins class. There's no question. Did Rudy screw me with raises? Yes, he did. Did he give himself a massive one? Yes. But I'm a city resident and a cop, right? So I look at both. To me, the city, look, you can't deny after his 8 years, the city looked better. You can't deny. Can you say Dinkins had some to do that? Okay. There's probably definitely some truth to that. But from Dinkins' first year to his fourth year, there wasn't much. The progression was during those Giuliani years. Did he get to steal some stuff from Dinkins? I have no doubt. Did Dinkins steal some stuff from Koch? No doubt. Did Koch steal something from the guy before him, who I have no idea who that is? No doubt.
Yeah.
That's part of the business. So did I think Rudy was a real good mayor and I liked him at the time? Yes, I did. I thought he was an open-minded Republican, right? Like he was not. No, like he.
I'm listening to you
on social issues.
I'm sorry if my facial expressions supersede.
Didn't we talk about? Didn't the ladies talk about that earlier about holding back your facial expressions?
And all that was domestic violence. They didn't say that about Real Talk Chronicles.
When they said that, all I thought of was you. I'm like, have you guys met Bill? Like,
yeah. That was domestic violence. This is Real Talk Chronicles.
If I hit you with a real good one, poor Malika's going to get hit with your chair as you roll backwards.
I'm like, Malika might roll back on me. We might meet each other in the middle. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster. That's my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. We had a wonderful show tonight. Kevin will definitely get back. We will definitely chime in on with you. I see you, Yvette Toma. I see you, Michelle. I see you, 40. Brian, I see all of you. I appreciate you all. You got comments and questions, and it's a beautiful thing.
I'm deleting my face after tonight.
No, you probably get a bunch of hate mail, and it's okay. Listen, before we get out of here, like I said, Malika's here every other Tuesday. We are here next Monday with Dr. Marilyn Corder with Real Talk with Allison Williams. We will be there. We will have the myths and the disclaimers in regards to the vaccine. On the 20th, we have the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams, in the building along on our Wednesday night. And I'm going to try to find a bunch of other political candidates that will want to come in and we're going to make it a political night, Kevin, and just come in and tell people why they're running for office and why they should vote for them. And that is it. This is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. I'm your host, Bill Foster. That is my co-host, Kevin Branzetti. That is my beautiful wife, Malika Vaughn, in the background, Foster. Wave at him, sweetie. Give him a little wave. Oh, she's got
the sound counseling headphones.
Wave at the crowd. Wave at the crowd. So, Kevin, give him a nice little words of affirmation before we get out of here, bro.
Well, I'd like to see everybody take that first step to try to unite. Right? Look, me and Bill had some crazy talks in the later part of this night, and we might have some laughs after we hang up with everybody. You have to talk to your neighbor. If your neighbor's a complete loon, go to your other neighbor. But try to bridge the divide. I've said it 100 times. I'd love to see our politicians do it, but sometimes it starts on the small level. So,
right.
What were the three words tonight? Listen, empathy, and encourage. So if you could take those 3 words and build on them with any facet of your life, you've done well. Have a good night, all.
Good night, everybody. I'm Bill Foster. See you soon. Enjoy. Thank you. Like it, subscribe to it, share it, thumbs up. Keep it moving. Real Talk Chronicles. Peace.